A blinding flash of light suddenly strikes the young man's face, confirming that his current life has come to a tragic and unwanted end, as a stern administrator informs a waiting group about their upcoming new lives, leading to mocking laughter among the candidates regarding their assigned roles. But the official quickly silences the room by calling for the next person, leaving the protagonist in a daze as he processes his sudden demise. While other boys casually compare the trucks that hit them during their transition, and roles like hero and mage are handed out with sharp gestures, until the administrator finally points directly at him to step forward, assigning him the unique but puzzling job of a candy shop owner, which sends the young man into a state of utter confusion and disbelief, before he is waved off with instructions to enjoy his new journey, as he realizes that freedom of choice does not exist in this world, and he suddenly materializes in the middle of a medieval fantasy town, taking in the sights of an environment that is clearly not Japan, reacting with surprise to the suddenness of his physical transportation, noticing that his body and clothing remain unchanged from his previous life, when a party of adventurers in armor and robes passes by him, prompting him to follow them after realizing he can understand their language. He approaches a large stone archway and realizes he can intuitively read the local language on signs. Observing a party of armored adventurers as they confidently march into the dark dungeon entrance, finding himself in a bustling market square filled with tents and vendors outside the massive walls, where the delicious aroma of grilled food wafting through the air captures his immediate attention, realizing with a sinking feeling in his stomach that he is completely broke and hungry, while a grumpy food vendor dismisses him for lingering without the coin to purchase anything, prompting him to think deeply about the peculiar instructions he received during his reincarnation, until he suddenly remembers, with a strike of inspiration, that his assigned role is a shopkeeper, recalling the administrator's hint that a simple mental command is all it takes to start business, choosing a quiet corner along the stone wall to test out his unique dimensional ability, shouting the command to open shop as his clothing instantly transforms into a traditional vendor outfit, finding himself equipped with a wooden shoulder pole carrying 2 large baskets filled with goods, settling onto the ground to display a colorful assortment of nostalgic Japanese candies to passersby, attempting to call out to potential customers, only to be completely ignored by the busy warriors. Continuing his sales pitch as more parties walk past his humble setup without a second glance, when a massive and intimidating adventurer suddenly looms over him with a terrifyingly fierce expression, leaving him frozen in fear as he realizes how dangerous the people in this world can be, shaking off his terror to desperately cry out his wares again because his survival depends on it, attracting the attention of a curious young girl who stops to inspect his strange shop, as she stares intently at the unfamiliar items while he waits nervously for his very first sale. He eagerly calls out to the crowd, offering his snacks at a very low price, when a young girl adventurer skips over, her interest piqued by his unusual setup, leaning down with a bright smile as she exclaims how cute the tiny treats look, pointing directly at a colorful display of small boxes and asking about their contents, while a system screen reveals the item is magical gum that gradually restores mana, prompting him to hold up a single pack while introducing it as 10 rim gum, though the girl tilts her head in confusion because she has never heard of gum, causing him to explain that it is a chewable sweet with potent mana recovery properties, which the girl finds impressive, even though she seems used to magical items, deciding to purchase 2 packs because she finds the concept so adorable and fun, happily handing over 2 copper coins to complete the first transaction of his life, leaving him staring in awe at the small pieces of currency resting in his palm, as he pumps his fist and nearly sheds tears of joy over his first profit, watching the girl rush away toward the city gates to meet her waiting party, until the bustling market eventually clears out and leaves him alone in the midday sun, clutching his stomach in pain as he realizes his meager earnings cannot buy a meal, noticing a jar of curry crackers that promise to restore stamina and warm the body, giving in to his intense hunger by taking a large and satisfyingly crunchy bite, staring guiltily at his inventory while questioning the professionalism of eating his own wares, resigned to his fate as he continues snacking on the crackers to survive the day. Tearing up from the nostalgic flavor, he savors every bite of the cracker that tastes just like home, feeling a surge of warmth and energy coursing through his body as the item takes effect. While a nearby jar of squid skewers promises to sharpen his senses and help detect hidden enemies, prompting him to try a skewer and weep at the delightful flavor that brings back memories. As he holds the snack and realizes his lack of sales stems from a simple lack of advertising, suddenly recoiling in shock when his hearing heightens to pick up every conversation in the market, covering his mouth as the overwhelming influx of information and noise hits him all at once, until he spots a stone lion fountain pouring fresh water into a basin nearby, gulping in desperation as the salty snacks have left his throat, feeling incredibly dry and parched. Wandering toward a crumbling 3-story building that looks like a possible place to stay, squinting at a suspicious wooden sign for an inn that makes him feel quite uneasy, reading a posted price list and realizing a single night costs far more than he possesses, resigned to sleeping outside as the sun sets and the moon rises over the stone walls. Meanwhile, deep within the dungeon, a young adventurer grips her shield and peers into the dark. As a rare and translucent elite, slime slides across the cold stone floor toward them. Hearing a warning from her companion that this particular monster is far tougher than normal ones, channeling magical energy into her blade to bypass the creature's natural physical immunity, shouting the name of her powerful 3-hit combo skill as she prepares to strike, swinging her glowing sword with all her might in a desperate attempt to defeat the beast, only to watch in confusion as the attack does absolutely nothing to the unfazed slime. Realizing her mana is completely depleted, the young adventurer watches the slime bounce away in frustration. Crouching behind a stone ledge, the two companions whisper about the high cost of recovery potions. As the boy recalls a specific snack that restores magic power for as long as it lasts, he holds out a small, colorful packet of gum featuring a cheerful cartoon character. The girl cautiously takes the candy and begins chewing it as she prepares for another attempt. Her eyes light up with joy at the intense sweetness of the gum's hidden flavor. Flexing her small muscles, she claims to feel her magical energy slowly returning to her body. Meanwhile, the slime continues its slow slide across the dungeon floor without a care in the world. Reinvigorated, she calls out her triple-shot power attack and lunges forward with renewed vigor. Later that evening, the market square fills with weary adventurers returning from their long expeditions. Observing the crowd under the moonlight, the merchant realizes this is the prime time for sales. Suddenly, a loud voice calls out to him, causing him to turn around in surprise. The two young girls from earlier rush toward his stall with broad, enthusiastic grins. They thank him profusely, explaining that the simple gum actually helped them survive the dungeon. Acting out her battle moves, the girl brags about her brilliant 3-hit combo attack. He stares at his remaining stock of gum while hearing how the effect ended with the flavor. The quieter companion, Mira, shyly steps forward to address the merchant with a gentle look. She reveals a winning slip of paper discovered inside the wrapper of her finished candy. With a warm smile, the boy congratulates her and presents her with a free prize gum. Her friend looks on with a pout, wishing she had been lucky enough to win too. He introduces a chocolate shaped like a 10-rim coin that provides a slight physical recovery effect. Mel gasps in disbelief, as she previously thought chocolate was a treat meant only for the nobility. The shop owner explains that a winning ticket inside the wrapper grants another free snack. Brimming with competitive spirit, the young girl immediately pays to try her luck on a piece. She leans over the counter with a grimace, carefully studying the chocolates to find the winner. The merchant and Mira watch her struggle, amused by how seriously she takes the simple task. Focusing her gaze with absolute precision, she ignores everything else to search for a prize. She thrusts her hand forward, pointing out the specific chocolate she believes contains the winning ticket. Her confidence turns to despair as she loses, prompting Mira to pat her head in sympathy. Hoping for a different result, the quiet companion steps forward to buy a single coin chocolate. The air seems to shimmer as Mira unwraps the candy to reveal a successful prize voucher. The sight of the winning ticket leaves her friend staring into the distance with wide, empty eyes. She soon breaks her silence by screaming about the unfairness of her friend's natural good luck. Fueled by a stubborn need to win, the girl slams more coins down for 3 more attempts. The sound of her shouting echoes through the market, catching the attention of passing armored warriors. She yells that the next prize will definitely be hers, while the onlookers start to gather around. The merchant hands over the requested chocolates, while the girl persists in her frantic pursuit of luck. Intrigued by the affordable prices and the game-like prizes, the group of warriors decides to buy. As the moon hangs over the fortress, voices continue to shout out their orders for more candy. A massive stack of copper coins concludes the successful day of business with a record-high profit. The merchant wipes sweat from his brow, reflecting on how the commotion served as great publicity. Mel glows with satisfaction while holding up a prize ticket worth 30 rim. The shop owner offers a strained congratulations while calculating the high cost of her victory. Mira catches her friend's attention with a gentle poke to the shoulder. With a light blush on her cheeks, the quiet companion suggests returning to the shop tomorrow. Her friend expresses genuine surprise at such a rare display of initiative from the usually reserved girl. A decisive confirmation echoes through the air as the group solidifies their future plans. The two girls wave enthusiastically, promising to return for more snacks and games the next day. The merchant watches them go with a warm smile, happy to have secured his first regular customers. Suddenly pausing, the young girl asks for the official name of the candy shop. The shop owner enters a moment of deep contemplation as he prepares his response. He proudly reveals that the shop is named simply after his own family name, Yahagi. Confused by the simplicity, Mel questions if he really just used his own name for the business. He explains that a flashy name wouldn't suit the humble nature of a neighborhood candy stall. Mira clutches her chest while softly whispering the man's first name to herself. Her observant friend notices the blushing reaction and leans in with a suspicious, teasing look. The girl quickly denies any deeper feelings, insisting she prefers a much more rugged type of man. As darkness fully settles over the high stone walls, the owner decides to close up shop. A sudden sound from the shadows causes the merchant to turn around with a perplexed expression. A group of weary travelers and armored guards approaches the entrance beneath the moonlit sky. The travelers share a rumor about a mysterious witch recently spotted deep within the local dungeon. They explain that a massive bounty has been placed on her head for cursing the king. Hearing the staggering amount of 100 million rim sends the shop owner into complete shock. He quickly sighs, realizing such a high-stakes hunt is irrelevant to his life as a candy merchant. Meanwhile, Mel quietly vows to claim that fortune for herself while striking a confident pose. His companion gently reminds her that earning a steady living is a much more realistic goal. Shifting focus, the narrative reflects on how choices in life are often limited by one's circumstances. Deep within the dark caverns, a hidden figure remains silent while guards patrol the area nearby. The mysterious girl keeps her face obscured, carefully avoiding detection from those searching for the bounty. Morning light finally breaks over the busy plaza as various vendors prepare their stalls for the day. A colorful variety of candies and prizes are meticulously arranged to attract the passing dungeon divers. Yahagi greets his returning regulars with a wide smile as they stop by for more snacks. He reflects on his transition to this world while standing proudly beside his humble mobile business. Mira curiously asks if the shop owner possesses magical abilities similar to her own sorcery. He admits that his unique ability to manifest the shop is his only magical talent. Mel impatiently demands her gum, while her friend wonders if his skill involves complex spatial magic. Noticing his tired appearance, the girls listen as he confesses to having a very restless night. The pair waves goodbye, promising to come back for more after their daily dungeon raid. New customers arrive shortly after, led by a knight eager to introduce his comrades to curry crackers. Despite the steady sales, the merchant realizes his current earnings aren't yet enough for a comfortable inn-stay. Yahagi arrives at a budget inn called Botaku Row, hoping for a decent place to rest. A sense of nervous hesitation washes over him as he examines the questionable storefront. In the dim moonlight, the building looks like a collection of unstable wooden huts. Entering the lobby, he encounters a grumpy receptionist who looks completely uninterested in his arrival. The woman demands an upfront payment of 850 rim while shooting him a glare. She strictly warns him to remain quiet to avoid getting caught up in any violent brawls. He is led to a tiny, windowed room containing nothing but a bed and small table. Yahagi notes that the interior is surprisingly clean, despite the receptionist's warning about the magic lamp. The woman slams the door shut, informing him that no formal checkout is necessary in the morning. Feeling completely drained from his first day of business, Yahagi quickly tucks himself into bed. He drifts into a peaceful sleep, unaware of the discomfort that is about to follow. A sudden and powerful gust of freezing wind whistles through the cracks in the walls. Yahagi snaps awake with a look of pure horror as the temperature in the room plummets. Shivering uncontrollably under his thin blanket, he realizes the inn provides very little protection from the elements. He lies awake in the dark, questioning if this world experiences normal seasonal changes while he freezes. Morning light reveals a sleep-deprived merchant who barely managed to get any rest during the night. Staring back at the dilapidated inn, he vows to save enough money for far better accommodations. As evening approaches once more, the merchant prepares his stall and waits for the returning adventurers. Mira eventually appears while supporting a swaying and pale Mel, who looks close to collapsing. The sorceress explains that her friend fell victim to a dizziness curse within the dangerous dungeon. Mel recalls the unfortunate moment she accidentally touched a gargoyle statue and triggered a curse. Yahagi strokes his chin thoughtfully as he considers which of his items can help her. The suffering adventurer leans against a wall while the merchant asks if they have any water. He presents a packet of powdered grape juice that specifically lists a curse-dispelling effect for 30 rim. Yahagi offers a cup of the freshly mixed purple liquid to the pale and swaying Mel. She gingerly takes a sip of the mysterious beverage as her companions watch with concern. The girl suddenly springs back to her feet with newfound energy as the dizziness instantly vanishes. Mel exclaims in shock over how delicious the juice tasted while her rosy complexion returns. The merchant leans in close to verify her recovery, causing the young woman to blush intensely. Mira inquires if the various other juice flavors in his stock also provide the same magical benefits. Learning that pineapple juice increases gold drops, Mel demands to buy his entire supply immediately. Feeling completely refreshed, the energetic girl rushes back to the lottery machine to try her luck. A frustrated shout erupts from Mel when she loses again, attracting the attention of passing adventurers. The merchant observes with a sweat drop as Mel becomes increasingly aggressive and loud about her failure. She vows to keep playing until she finally wins, her face twisting with an intense gambling fever. Yahagi suddenly stuffs a small piece of candy into her mouth to halt her loud outburst. The girl mindlessly crunches on the treat as a strange silence falls over the bustling stall area. A serene and polite expression replaces her previous rage as the sedative properties take full effect. He explains that these cola-flavored Ramune pellets cost 40 rim and are perfect for calming nerves. The merchant celebrates his daily earnings, exceeding 3,000 rim as his first customers finally depart. Yahagi returns to the same cheap inn for another night. He completes his check-in with the grumpy landlady who remains as cold as ever. While leaning against the counter, the merchant notices an unusual spot. He points out a large, dark stain that mars the wooden surface. The landlady reveals it came from a recent brawl and sighs about wanting to move. Waking up early, Yahagi secures a prime spot right near the dungeon entrance. He officially opens his stall as the first rays of morning light appear. The shopkeeper is relieved to find his pineapple juice stock has been fully replenished. He notices a new set of hanging items that were not available yesterday. A closer look reveals these rocket toys are actually magical explosives used against monsters. Yahagi stares in disbelief at the realization that he is now selling dangerous weaponry. Mel and Mira return to the stall, with Mel cheering over the juice restock. The energetic girl peers at the new merchandise and asks what they are. Mira explains that explosion magic is highly effective but difficult to master. The merchant encourages Mel to try a lottery draw to see what she wins. Mira displays her winning prize, while Yahagi marvels at her consistently good fortune. He urges the girls to handle their new items with extreme care. The sun sets over the fortress walls as evening finally arrives at the outpost. Mel suddenly reappears and runs toward the stall, while shouting a loud greeting. She throws herself into the startled merchant with a sudden and forceful tackle hug. Mel and Mira walk away, while discussing how much the pineapple juice helped their hunting. A flashback reveals a poison lizard being sent flying by a powerful rocket explosion. Mira explains that these tools are ideal for novice adventurers who lack high-level magic. Mel's mood sours when she draws a low-tier prize from the shop's lottery box. Despite her loss, she resolves to keep playing until she wins as night falls. The scene transitions as the bustling outpost settles into a quiet and dark evening. Yahagi heads back to the inn, where the landlady remains, characteristically cold and blunt. He requests a discounted 5-day stay, and notices her attitude seems slightly more relaxed. The atmosphere shifts as the landlady leans in with an intensely serious and grim look. She whispers a warning about a particularly dangerous individual staying in the room next door. Yahagi asks if the neighbor is a criminal, only to be told it is worse. She explains that the man is known as a reaper who has many victims. The landlady sighs in frustration at the authorities for leaving such a threat at large. Ending the dark conversation, she stands up to prepare a fresh pot of hot tea. Yahagi decides to provide a snack and pulls out a package of chocolate-filled treats. He pauses upon reading a note that the sweets are designed to increase intimacy. Despite some initial reluctance about befriending the grumpy woman, he opens the package regardless. The merchant offers one of the mini cakes to the landlady as she returns. She skillfully catches the tossed snack while looking surprised by his sudden and kind gesture. Her face glows with unexpected happiness as she tastes the delicious chocolate filling inside. Yahagi smiles awkwardly after the landlady suddenly offers to buy 10 of the chocolate treats. He sips the hot beverage provided and notes its unique flavor. Profile resembles a roasted tea. The landlady explains that the best soldiers are away at the border while throwing a snack. She looks increasingly grim while discussing the state of the war and chewing her food. Yahagi nods along politely, even though he admits to himself he knows nothing about the conflict. The conversation turns toward a rumor regarding a powerful curse placed upon the kingdom's ruler. A flashback illustrates the king and a prominent witch who were once involved in an engagement. The arrangement fell apart when the king unexpectedly fell in love with a different noblewoman. The landlady explains that the scorned witch retaliated with magic after being cast aside so cruelly. She laments how the king's subsequent withdrawal from public life has destroyed local safety and law. Yahagi stares into his cup with a look of genuine pity for the abandoned witch, Michelle. He glances toward the dark and empty staircase as the weight of the story sets in. A heavy silence falls over the room as the landlady pauses, her eating to reflect. She warns the merchant to keep quiet because soldiers are arresting anyone who criticizes the royals. A sharp sound from the upper floor causes the young man to turn around in surprise. He peers into the darkness of the hallway and wonders if someone is lurking just out of sight. Fearing an informant is listening, he whispers to the landlady, who claims she heard absolutely nothing. She insists that the man in the room next door is a far greater threat. Tucked into bed later that night, Yahagi stares up at the ceiling with wide, fearful eyes. He remains completely unable to sleep as he contemplates the dangerous person on the other side of the wall. Yahagi breaks into a cold sweat while worrying that someone has been watching him since he arrived. He glances toward the thin wall and fears his dangerous neighbor will kill him for snoring. A sudden and intense physical urge to use the restroom strikes him at the worst possible moment. He mentally maps out the treacherous path past the Reaper's room to reach the downstairs toilet. Choosing a risky trek over the loss of his dignity, he nervously peeks out into the hallway. He notices a sliver of light spilling from the slightly open door of the neighboring room. Swallowing hard, he wonders if the mysterious entity inside is actually awake at this hour. Despite the obvious peril, his curiosity begins to outweigh his fear as he approaches the door. He admits he cannot stop himself from taking a forbidden look inside the dark room. A pair of delicate and lacy feminine undergarments sit prominently on the middle of the bed. The young man stares in blank confusion as he processes the unexpected and scandalous sight. He finds himself inadvertently noting the impressive size and intricate detail of the garments. Quickly shaking his head, he tries to dismiss the inappropriate thoughts clouding his mind. He imagines the terrifying specter might actually be a bizarre thief or have a secret hobby. Deciding to act as though he saw nothing at all, he forces a bright smile. He finally reaches the safety of the small wooden toilet shed located in the courtyard. Stepping back outside, he breathes a sigh of relief for having successfully protected his personal dignity. The sudden release of tension leaves him feeling hungry for a late-night snack. His hands move quickly to tear open a small package of treats he carries along. He peacefully munches on a chocolate dorayaki while noting its satisfying and filling nature. The hulking, armored figure cracks their knuckles intimidatingly as Yahagi stares in complete shock. He points toward his basket of snacks while explaining his role as a traveling merchant. Tentatively reaching out, he offers a single chocolate dorayaki as a peace offering. The mysterious neighbor takes the small treat and inspects it with a glowing, mechanical gaze. Yahagi watches with bated breath, hoping this small gesture prevents his immediate demise. A quiet munching sound fills the hallway as the figure begins to eat the snack. The young man jumps when a distinctly feminine voice expresses delight from behind the mask. The figure looks down at the wide variety of colorful treats remaining in the basket. Glowing with excitement, the armored person scoops up an armful of different candies. She drops a heavy pile of gold coins into his hand as payment for the haul. The scattered candies and the discarded helmet sit on the bed next to the lingerie. Yahagi returns to his room feeling relieved while the girl enjoys her snacks in private. She blushes deeply while admiring the taste of the chocolate dorayaki she holds. Despite the successful transaction, Yahagi remains huddled under his blankets in a cold sweat. Morning arrives and the busy marketplace comes to life with the opening of the stalls. Yahagi approaches his own shop and notices something has fundamentally changed overnight. The simple stall has transformed into a sturdy wooden stand with better display options. He curiously investigates the new drawers and shelves that have appeared in his shop. His eyes widen as he discovers a brand new product featuring a menacing dragon. He introduces a line of monster chips that include powerful collectible summoning cards. Mira and Mel arrive at the stall and immediately notice the colorful new inventory. Yahagi introduces his monster chips, which the girls eagerly purchase to find collectible cards. Mira cheers upon pulling a rare stone golem card that boasts impressive stats. Mel stares blankly at her own card after pulling a weak and common slime. While Mel munches on the snacks, Mira asks about the possibility of a part-time job. She explains that her magic isn't suited for freezing treats despite the shop's needs. A dark and imposing voice suddenly chimes in from the shadows behind Yahagi. The armored neighbor steps forward while making a threatening gesture with her metal gauntlets. Yahagi welcomes her with a shaky smile as the two girls cower in fear. The mysterious warrior waves off any mention of payment for her assistance. She manifests a complex, glowing magic circle that hums with cold energy. The apricot jelly snacks are instantly transformed into icy popsicles by the spell. Yahagi tentatively hands over one of the newly frozen treats as a gesture of thanks. A sharp crunching sound resonates as the armored woman takes a large bite. She remains motionless for a moment as the refreshing flavor spreads through her. Her visor glows brightly as she demands a pack of 10 more frozen sticks. The knight lingers by the shop drawers to inspect the rest of the stock. Her presence creates a heavy atmosphere that makes regular business quite difficult. Yahagi whispers to the girls to verify the terrifying rumors about their neighbor. They recall stories of her incredible swordsmanship and her mastery over high-level magic. Yahagi curiously asks why a high-level warrior would waste her time at such a small shop. Mira becomes suddenly flustered as she wonders if the knight is actually there for her. She strikes a prideful pose while considering if her feminine charms are the real draw. Regardless of the girl's antics, the armored neighbor continues to stare intently at the candy. Mira collapses into a state of shock upon realizing that she is being completely ignored. The pair of friends eventually leave while commenting on the merchant's intimidating new companion. As the day turns to evening, one of the frozen apricot sticks starts to melt. Yahagi looks out at the town and notices that the evening foot traffic is unusually light. A young witch named Michelle arrives at the stall and asks to play the rocket lottery. She accepts a third prize snack box and shares rumors about recent witch sightings nearby. Michelle decides to buy some monster chips as well after seeing the other girls' collections. Yahagi admires a heavy bag of gold coins and ponders the profitability of his candy shop. He thinks about moving on from his current status until a dark aura suddenly appears. The armored knight looms over him with a terrifying gaze that chills him to the bone. Yahagi panics as he realizes he may have spoken his rude thoughts about her aloud. The warrior leans in close to the trembling merchant to finally reveal her true identity. She identifies herself as Minerva, while an ominous magical pressure radiates from her form. Switching focus, she holds out a packet of orange-flavored juice for him to prepare. Yahagi notices the battle scars on her armor and asks if she was recently poisoned. He offers to prepare the refreshment for her, despite her brief protest against the help. Minerva greedily drinks the orange refreshment that the merchant prepared for her. She turns away with a satisfied expression once the drink settles her stomach. The armored woman vanishes into the dark street while promising to visit again soon. Yahagi stands alone, wondering if the name Minerva carries a specific gender connotation here. Time passes until the shopkeeper hangs a fresh batch of lottery games on his rack. A prominent display board outlines the potential stat bonuses and prizes available for players. The merchant considers the psychological lure of the gambling products he now offers. A familiar adventurer named Galm stops by to buy his usual spicy curry crackers. He introduces his young companion Rigel, who works as a porter for their party. The young porter expresses his appreciation for the shop's selection of low-priced snacks. The pair's curiosity is piqued by the shiny new scratch cards hanging nearby. Mel suddenly appears with a burst of energy to see what has changed at the shop. She exchanges a cheerful morning greeting with Galm as they gather around the counter. Yahagi holds up a sample card to explain the process of revealing the hidden symbols. The group becomes increasingly enthusiastic about testing their luck for a few gold coins. Mel follows Yahagi's advice to eat a small candy before beginning her lottery attempt. The sound of a coin scraping against paper echoes through the stall. A hand carefully rubs the coin across the surface to uncover the hidden icons. Galm yells in triumph as the second matching symbol comes into view on his card. The final circle reveals a third sword to complete the winning set for the lucky adventurer. A winning scratch card begins to emit a blinding and mystical light. The intensity of the glow increases as the prize takes its magical effect. The lucky adventurer shouts in excitement while feeling a surge of strength in his muscles. Yahagi clarifies that the boost from the card will only remain active for half a day. Mel looks down at her revealed symbols and realizes she has lost the game. She slumps her shoulders in a fit of depression while the shopkeeper watches her. The girl desperately produces another coin and begs to try her luck once more. A can of mini cola and a few round candies are served on the countertop. Mel snacks on the candy while discussing sightings of a witch in the dungeon. The group talks about a failed mission where a top team used poisoned arrows. Yahagi considers the mention of poison while trying to recall something he heard recently. Mel notes that bounty posters for the witch are now visible in the castle square. She shares that a specific type of giant mosquito chirps whenever the witch is close. More adventurers arrive at the shop after hearing good things from their friends. The merchant counts his earnings from the morning sales with a satisfied smile. He closes up his stall temporarily to wander through the city's market district. A sturdy leather backpack is purchased to help carry his growing inventory and supplies. Yahagi buys a warm blanket to ensure he stays comfortable during the chilly nights. He stops to order a delicious meal consisting of a sausage and hot soup. The shopkeeper enjoys the food while feeling grateful for his improved quality of life. Yahagi approaches the towering stone walls of the royal palace district. He takes in the sight of the grand castle rising over the capital square. Searching through the clean streets for the central bulletin board, he finally spots a large wooden board covered in various public notices. The shopkeeper finds the bounty poster for the notorious witch Michelle. He mutters to himself about how surprisingly beautiful the wanted woman is. A dark and ominous voice suddenly calls out from behind him. Minerva appears and questions why he is loitering near the castle posters. The knight looms over him and asks if he intends to hunt the witch. Yahagi looks back at the poster and admits she seems a bit pitiful. Minerva's eyes glow with intensity as she stares directly into his soul. He recalls a stern warning about speaking out of turn in the city. The armored warrior pauses to consider his unexpected opinion on the witch. Minerva becomes strangely flustered and begins to fidget with her hands. They engage in a casual conversation about the witch's personality and appearance. Yahagi pulls out a small chocolate bar and offers it to his companion. Minerva accepts the treat while critiquing the witch's lack of charm. The two continue their light-hearted discussion about various body types and preferences. Yahagi asks if the knight has personal knowledge of the elusive Michelle. Minerva eats the candy and declares that she simply dislikes the woman. Minerva reflects on the sweet strawberry flavor while savoring her new treat. Yahagi lists his available inventory as she decides to purchase every box. The knight offers a handful of coins and demands to know his name. The shopkeeper introduces himself as Yahagi Yusuke with a polite bow. Minerva repeats his name, while her eye shines with a piercing intensity. They stroll through the city, while he warns her about overindulging in sweets. Yahagi describes his favorite foods, while she observes him with great interest. Minerva asks once more if he finds the wanted witch to be attractive. They return to the dungeon square and find a large crowd gathered. A frantic adventurer shouts for a healer to assist an injured porter. Yahagi discovers a young girl lying on a stretcher with a bleeding leg. He realizes he met her earlier and watches her struggle with the pain. The shopkeeper worries that his candy items are insufficient for such a wound. Minerva approaches from behind and inquires about the cause of the distress. Yahagi desperately asks the knight if she is carrying any medical bandages. The warrior explains she has no supplies, but possesses the power to heal. He stares in disbelief as she prepares to use her mystical abilities. Minerva raises her armored hands and invokes a brilliant circle of light. The holy magic instantly mends the flesh and stops the heavy bleeding. The porter recovers her strength and tearfully thanks her savior for the help. Yahagi stands near the fortress wall, realizing just how dangerous the dungeon truly is for adventurers. Several days later, a boisterous shout erupts from the market square as the shop opens for business. Mel jumps for joy after pulling a rare Ghost Knight card from a pack of snacks. She celebrates her incredible luck, while Yahagi worries that his own fortune is currently at its lowest. He reflects on a morning filled with clumsy accidents and financial mistakes at his humble stall. Mel encourages him to try his luck with some chocolates to turn his day around. A sudden clanking of metal catches his attention, and he turns around with a confused expression. Several heavily armored soldiers march through the square with an intimidating and stern presence. Yahagi panics, fearing someone reported his sympathetic comments about the wanted witch to the authorities. The lead guard raises a hand and loudly demands that all merchants present their official business permits. The shopkeeper freezes in terror as he realizes he has never heard of such a requirement. He frantically wonders if a sales license is mandatory, while acknowledging that he definitely doesn't own one. Tempted to use his shop's ability to vanish and escape, he quickly reconsiders his next move. The soldiers approach the area while Mel and Mira watch the inspection unfold with casual interest. Yahagi breaks into a cold sweat as the guards finally reach him and wait for his response. He sheepishly confesses his lack of documentation while explaining he has only been trading for a week. His regular customers listen in silence as the knight confirms the truth of his rookie mistake. The guard mentions that operating without a license usually warrants a trip to the dungeon's prison. Fortunately, the soldier appreciates his honesty and decides to settle the matter with a simple fine. Yahagi exhales a heavy sigh of relief after surviving his first brush with the local law. Yahagi sheepishly explains his background, while Mel and Mira tease him about lacking a merchant license. They ask where he came from, but his mention of Japan only leaves the girls feeling completely baffled. Mel points out that despite his capable appearance, Yahagi has a surprising knack for making huge blunders. She questions Mira's growing affection for the shopkeeper, while Mira simply maintains a mysterious and gentle smile. Mira imagines a future where she happily pampers the helpless man, much to Mel's visible and intense annoyance. The conversation shifts to the cost of a permit as Yahagi realizes the fine drained his meager savings. He peers into his nearly empty coin pouch and discovers only a few thousand remain for business. A look of deep concern crosses his face as he ponders how to afford inn fees without trading. Mel suddenly leans forward with a confident smirk, claiming she knows a way out of his predicament. She explains that there is one specific location where the strict merchant laws do not apply at all. Yahagi gestures toward the town square, but Mel clarifies that her solution lies far away from the surface. He gulps in anticipation as the weight of her mysterious suggestion begins to dawn on him quite heavily. Mel enthusiastically shouts that he should set up his candy shop right in the middle of the dungeon. The shopkeeper's face pales with sheer terror at the prospect of moving his business into such danger. Meanwhile, in a quiet house, a girl with long dark hair hums a tune while preparing a meal. She diligently chops fresh vegetables on a cutting board to prepare a special lunch for the day ahead. A small smile plays on her lips as she focuses on the rhythm of her kitchen work. The girl finishes assembling a beautiful and meticulously organized bento box filled with sandwiches and various treats. She wraps herself in a thick, dark cloak with a fur collar before preparing to step outside. A gentle blush warms her cheeks as she opens the door and sets off on her secret errand. A mysterious, jagged mask rests quietly as a voice realizes they forgot something. The cloaked figure with cat ears hums a cheerful tune while strolling down a narrow corridor. Suddenly, she crashes right into a massive thug wearing a spiked metal collar. The brute glares down with an intimidating scowl and demands to know who hit him. His expression shifts to pure shock when the girl looks up with glowing eyes from behind her mask. Terrified by her presence, the man screams an apology and sprints away as fast as possible. She reaches out in confusion, feeling disappointed that her attempt to apologize only caused more fear. The following morning arrives at the stone-walled entrance to the local dungeon. Mel and Mira appear with bright energy to greet Yahagi for their planned expedition. The shopkeeper shivers uncontrollably as the reality of entering a dangerous dungeon sinks in. Mel laughs at his extreme nervousness, while Yahagi admits he is completely overwhelmed by the situation. She leans in close with a confident smirk and vows to handle every monster they encounter. Seeking a boost in bravery, Yahagi pulls out a stick of apricot syrup candy and takes a bite. The group finally steps into the dark and damp stone hallway of the mysterious structure. Yahagi compares the descent to a subway station, as Mira mentions the stairs are 60 steps long. They continue their walk while Mel reminds him of their agreement regarding his special candy prices. Mel leaps off the final step and announces that they have reached the bottom of the long climb. Yahagi looks around the wide stone landing and asks if he can start his business immediately. Mel quickly shuts down the idea, explaining that merchant laws and other adventurers forbid trading so close to the entrance. She points toward the dark doorway ahead as they prepare to enter the true heart of the dungeon. Yahagi looks around the stone chamber, while Mel and Mira lead the way. He points toward the next doorway as the girls discuss their progress. They approach an ornate entrance decorated with intricate carvings. Mel enthusiastically announces they have safely reached the second district. Feeling grateful for their protection, Yahagi offers them any snacks they desire. His face drops when Mel requests monster chips, forced to admit they are sold out. Mel nearly bursts into tears as he explains he had to give the stock away. A brief memory shows the stall owner happily receiving the rare snack. Yahagi reassures himself that his remaining cards will be enough to survive. The girls wave goodbye as they venture further into the dangerous corridors. Left alone in the quiet landing, Yahagi prepares to set up his shop. He notices two other merchants already resting at a small table nearby. Bowing respectfully, the shopkeeper introduces himself to the veteran workers. The blacksmith and tea seller warmly welcome him to the floor. The blacksmith suddenly stiffens, sensing a dark presence nearby. He grabs his weapon and warns that monsters are rapidly approaching. Caught off guard, Yahagi frantically pulls out a card for protection. A pack of drooling goblins emerges from the darkness with malicious grins. Realizing there is no time to choose, Yahagi activates a summoning spell. A small goblin ally appears in a flash of light to defend its master. The summoned goblin stares down the pack of hostile monsters. It leaps into the air with a dagger to strike the first foe. With a swift slash, the small ally cuts down the enemy. The defeated monster begins to vanish into sparkles of light. However, more goblins quickly surround the lone summon as the situation grows dire. Yusuke realizes he cannot afford to hold back and prepares more cards. He summons a flying piranha bird and a swift pixie to join the fray. The flying piranha bites into a goblin, while the pixie distracts the rest. The first summoned goblin narrows its eyes and prepares for a final assault. It moves with incredible speed through the remaining enemies like a blur. All the hostiles dissipate into thin air after the decisive strike. Yusuke breathes a sigh of relief as the immediate danger passes. The veteran merchants express surprise at seeing so many monsters appear at once. The three summoned creatures wave farewell before vanishing back into their cards. The blacksmith asks Yusuke if he plans to collect the dropped loot. Several coins and magic crystals lie scattered across the stone floor. The veteran insists that Yusuke keep the rewards for his hard work. Yusuke counts the coins in his hand and calculates his small profit. He grimaces upon realizing the cost of the cards exceeds his earnings. The tea seller praises him for his skills, while he humbly clarifies his profession. Yusuke warmly greets a group of visitors as they approach his quiet candy shop. He happily enjoys a snack while explaining his deep passion for his unique profession. The afternoon brings a sudden quietness to the area as the merchant crowds thin out. The local blacksmith and tea seller discuss their business plans for the remaining day. Yusuke sets out a simple meal of bread and a fresh apple for his lunch. A sudden chill causes the merchants to tremble in fear as a dark presence looms. Minerva appears in full armor with a menacing aura while searching for Yusuke. Her dark energy swirls with intense power as she stands before the surprised shopkeeper. Yusuke asks if she was looking for him, prompting an embarrassed and fuming denial. He quickly reassures his terrified companions that the armored warrior is actually a friend. Minerva cuts him off with a loud shout, demanding his full attention immediately. She bashfully presents a lunch bag and asks him to eat a meal together. The box reveals a beautifully prepared assortment of handmade sandwiches and fresh fruit. Yusuke takes a large bite of the gift to sample her unexpected cooking. His face lights up as he praises the incredible flavor of the delicious sandwiches. Minerva fidgets with bashful joy, while Yusuke expresses surprise at her hidden culinary talent. He offers to buy tea from the vendor to accompany their shared lunch. The armored warrior snaps at him to stop socializing and return to her side. She continues to mumble irritably, while Yusuke wonders if hunger is causing her mood. The afternoon conversation ends as the surrounding light fades into a quiet dot pattern. Evening falls as adventurers emerge from the stone dungeon entrance. The young girl excitedly proposes moving the candy shop deeper into the dungeon tomorrow. Yusuke considers the idea while she describes a safe room near the second basement level stairs. She argues that the location would be highly convenient and profitable for resting explorers. Her companion smiles while adding that everyone would be happy to see Yusuke there. Minerva glares from the shadows with a terrifying and jealous aura directed at the girls. Yusuke gives the armored warrior a quick chop to the head for scaring his customers. He turns his attention back to the group and agrees to investigate the deeper floor. The sun rises over the stone fortress as a new morning begins for the party. The two girls look visibly drained and nervous as they greet Yusuke with trembling voices. Minerva appears once more with a menacing energy to remark on their supposed coincidence. Yusuke sweat drops at her intensity before asking if she wants to travel together today. The group makes their way toward the dark opening of the lower dungeon level. They descend a long flight of stone stairs that leads deep into the earth. Yusuke marvels at the massive scale of the underground corridors while following the energetic guide. Minerva reacts with immediate hostility and suspicion when the girl mentions the resting room. She huffs irritably as Yusuke wonders why her mood swings have become so frequent lately. The young guide reaches the destination and grandly reveals the location of the new shop. Yusuke is stunned by the sheer size of the chamber, which resembles a great hall. He concludes that they should prepare to open for business in the spacious new area. Yusuke stands before his upgraded shop stall, which glows with an inviting light in the dark dungeon. As his companions inquire about the mysterious Japanese script written across the shop's colorful banner, until a large wooden cabinet catches the eye of the energetic young girl, revealing a classic dungeon conquest coin game that offers a rare elixir as its grand prize. Yusuke examines the machine, while privately noting that the difficulty level appears quite high. He ponders if the extreme challenge is a direct result of the incredibly valuable reward offered, questioning his friends about the true worth of an elixir as they listen with intense expressions. The group reveals that a genuine elixir is worth over 1,000,000 rim, leaving Yusuke completely speechless. Eager to win the fortune, the girl slams a coin onto the counter to start the very first round. She expertly manipulates the levers to guide her coin past the painted monsters on the game board, bragging about her natural talent while focusing intensely on the silver coin's precarious path. The coin wobbles dangerously near a trap as it passes between a skeleton and a stone golem. She shouts in agony after failing the challenge and immediately demands another chance to play. Yusuke warns her to look around as she continues her desperate and noisy gambling spree, only to find that a massive crowd of eager adventurers has formed right behind her. Sometime later, the girls look physically drained as they bid Yusuke farewell to start their real mission. The busy hours of the day pass by as the shop serves its many dungeon visitors. Evening eventually arrives as Yusuke politely thanks his final customers for their business. He lets out a tired sigh of relief and decides it is finally time to close up for the day. He unlocks the coin compartment to find a massive fortune collected from the popular new game. Yusuke reflects on how only one person has successfully cleared the high difficulty game so far, noting that the grand prize actually resembles a traditional Japanese sweet rather than a liquid potion, because obtaining such a versatile medicine is essential for surviving the unpredictable dangers of the dungeon, and his daily profits have already surpassed his earnings from the dungeon's entrance plaza. His thoughts are interrupted as the two girls return and cheerily wave to him, while the imposing Minerva looms suddenly behind him with a dark and intimidating presence, prompting Yusuke to offer a nervous smile as he realizes she wants to accompany the group. The four of them begin walking through the stone corridors together after finishing the day's work, as Yusuke asks the girls if they know of any secluded spots away from prying eyes, explaining his desperate need to practice the coin game in secret to win the rare elixir, though he worries that the constant noise of the machine would disturb guests at a regular inn. Suddenly, Minerva grips his shoulders with her armored hands and pulls him closer. Her eyes glow with an intense light as she stares directly into his startled face, as she shyly looks away and asks him if he would consider coming to her house, leaving his two companions completely stunned and confused by her unexpected and bold invitation. Yusuke asks for clarification if she truly has a place where he can practice in peace, and Minerva nervously clenches her fists while insisting that he must stay for dinner and sleep over, which causes the girls to gape in utter disbelief at the fast-moving developments. While Yusuke worries about being a burden before she tells him it is simply for a friend, he ultimately gives her a warm and grateful smile while accepting her generous offer to stay. The two girls are left completely speechless by the sudden turn of events. While Minerva privately questions if this incredible moment is actually a dream, she feels a surge of excitement knowing that Yusuke is finally visiting her home, reflecting on how her courage to take initiative in romance has finally paid off, and she prepares herself to eventually reveal her secret identity as a witch. Although Yusuke remains oblivious to her inner turmoil as they walk along, they stop at a bustling merchant stall near the massive castle walls, where Yusuke decides to purchase a more suitable set of adventurer's clothing, browsing through the racks while noting that his business success allows for upgrades. He curiously asks if her house is equipped with heating for the night. Minerva mentions her modest tolerance for alcohol as they discuss their dinner plans, as she walks close to him while contemplating their deepening emotional connection. Yusuke excitedly holds up a bottle of wine for their upcoming dinner together, which makes Minerva blush intensely as she wonders about his true intentions. She begins to fidget nervously while secretly imagining him as a lifelong partner. Meanwhile, the two young girls trail closely behind to witness the unfolding scene, whispering excitedly to each other about the possibility of a romantic date, as Mira compares the scene to the male-centric romance novels she enjoys. Oblivious to the stalkers, Minerva points toward her residence just around the corner, while the two curious companions scamper ahead to find a better vantage point. The two young stalkers find themselves alone in an empty alleyway after losing sight of their targets. Mira and her companion exchange confused glances, wondering where the pair could have vanished so suddenly. Meanwhile, Minerva leads Yusuke to the front of a charming and sturdy brick apartment building, explaining the property details while Yusuke admires the quiet and pleasant atmosphere of the neighborhood, as he politely announces his arrival and steps through the front door of the residence. The interior reveals a pristine and sparkling hallway that seems exceptionally well maintained, leading Yusuke to express his genuine surprise at how nice her living quarters actually are. He discovers a spacious bathroom featuring a large built-in tub that catches his attention immediately, prompting Minerva to nervously fidget while offering him the choice between a bath or dinner first. Her overactive imagination triggers a sudden and explosive nosebleed that sprays through her mask, leaving Yusuke in a state of absolute panic as he sees her slumped over and bleeding. But she quickly turns away and insists she is perfectly fine, despite the obvious physical distress, striking a confident pose to prove her health while Yusuke wonders if it is a magical side effect. She insistently pushes him toward the bathroom to ensure he relaxes before they eat together, finally finding a moment of solitude to catch her breath once he is out of sight. She removes her mask to reveal a face flushed with intense embarrassment and a lingering nosebleed, before beginning to wash the blood away from her gear in a basin of cool water. She starts preparing the meal by magically levitating and slicing vegetables with expert precision, placing the ingredients into a pot that she seals with a specialized containment barrier. And she smiles brightly while performing her best magic to create a perfect dinner for her guest. Yusuke peeks out of the room with a towel, noting how good the meal smells while catching Minerva off guard. Minerva secretly admires his toned arms and physique while he stands comfortably in his tank top. Shaking off her distractions, Minerva urges him to play the 10-rim game while she finishes up the food. She continues to fidget nervously in her apron while Yusuke prepares to start his gaming session. The 10-rim game machine stands ready as Yusuke activates it with the hope of winning a rare prize. He sets his sights on obtaining the legendary panacea before the night is over. Frustrating sounds fill the room as the game proves much more difficult than he initially anticipated. Minerva announces that dinner is served just as Yusuke begins to feel the pangs of hunger. A luxurious spread of red wine, mustard grilled lamb, and lobster mousse awaits them on the table. Yusuke is visibly impressed by the meal, while Minerva prepares to remove her mask for the meal. Wondering how she intends to eat, Yusuke watches as she begins to unfasten her protective headgear. He waits with bated breath as she slowly pulls the mask away from her face. His heart races in anticipation of finally seeing his host's true appearance for the first time. Suddenly, a magical barrier depicting a simple smiley face appears where her features should be. Yusuke slumps in disappointment as she explains the necessity of her perception-blocking magic. Putting the mystery aside, the two settle down to enjoy the delicious feast together. Time passes quietly as they finish their dinner and engage in casual conversation. With their plates now empty, Yusuke expresses his deep satisfaction with the incredible meal. He looks around the beautiful apartment and compliments the high quality of her living space. Minerva bashfully suggests that he could move in, though he clarifies his desire to find his own place. Night settles over the gabled roof as Yusuke notes that it is finally time to turn in. Yusuke announces his intention to practice the game a bit more before heading to bed. He bids Minerva a warm goodnight while she remains motionless, staring at the guest room door. Minerva stands alone in the shadows, her thoughts swirling with a desperate wish for him to stay. A blush creeps onto her face as she dreams of making him completely dependent on her care. She considers utilizing an infinite corridor barrier to ensure he can never leave her side. Yusuke pauses at the door, confused by strange sounds that he mistakes for stray cats fighting. A deep darkness falls over the house as the transition into the deep night begins. Wrapped in blankets, Yusuke drifts off into a peaceful sleep as the hours pass by. Minerva looms over his sleeping form with glowing eyes, mesmerized by his vulnerable expression. She continues her silent vigil by his bedside until the first rays of sunlight hit the room. Jolting awake, Yusuke cries out in shock to find Minerva staring directly into his face. Minerva wiggles her body nervously, while confessing that she couldn't help but watch him sleep. Yusuke's attention shifts to the floor, where he spots several mysterious documents lying scattered about. He examines the intricate magic circles drawn on the papers, wondering what their purpose might be. Sensing his curiosity, Minerva frantically scoops up the infinite corridor blueprints to hide her intentions. Yusuke apologizes for prying, assuming she was just working late on high-level magic research. He steps closer to her with a kind gaze, sensing the exhaustion in her posture. As a gesture of gratitude for her hospitality, he offers to give her a shoulder massage. Minerva lets out an audible gasp of relief as his hands begin working through her tension. Yusuke gently kneads Minerva's shoulders, realizing how fragile and slender her frame actually feels. He asks if the massage is helping, while her dark, swirling aura begins to soften and melt. Caught in a daze, she imagines herself joyfully pledging her entire life and soul to his service. Yusuke laughs and waves his hand, quickly clarifying that his previous suggestion was only a light-hearted joke. Minerva remains perfectly still, quietly questioning if he is the type to possessively bind those he likes. A heavy silence hangs in the air as she considers his words with her back turned away. Yusuke continues with a nervous sweat, explaining that being too restrictive usually makes people want to run. Looming closer, she resolves internally to be extremely careful so that he can never find an escape. Yusuke tilts his head with a puzzled smile, wondering about the odd phrasing she just used. Breaking the tension, Minerva turns toward the door and announces that their morning breakfast is finally ready. The scene transitions with a spirited exclamation as they prepare to dig into their morning meal together. Standing outside the large house, Yusuke expresses his gratitude for the food before suggesting they head out. While walking through the village, he curiously asks if she is also searching for the mysterious witch Michelle. Minerva presents a glowing, intricate pendant and clarifies that her interest lies solely in this magical artifact. She explains that the device functions like a battery designed to store vast amounts of concentrated magical energy. Yusuke asks for more details while she describes the high-density mana leaking from fissures deep within the dungeon. Minerva details her ongoing experiments involving charging various magic orbs at the very bottom of the abyss. Looking toward the stone architecture, she admits that only these rare conditions keep her tied to the town. They eventually reach a quiet rest area, tucked away within the cold, brick-lined corridors of the dungeon. Yusuke thanks her for the safe escort while Minerva watches him with an unreadable expression behind her mask. Minerva pauses to add a final note to their conversation before departing. She suddenly produces a surprisingly heavy bento bag for Yusuke to carry. With a final word about her 3-day mission to the abyss, she departs. At the shop, a cheerful young girl officially announces the start of business. Yusuke greets the employee and asks how her recent wounds are healing up. She reveals a fresh scrape on her hand from a minor stumble. Although she claims it is nothing, he offers a special new product. A specialized snack called Morocco yogurt is introduced as a low-cost healing item. The girl looks down at the miniature container with a look of pure confusion. She takes a small spoonful of the white cream to test its effects. Her hand glows with a soft light as the skin perfectly mends itself. Grinning, she notes how much easier it is to carry than bulky recovery tea. Mel charges into the stall, shouting her intent to purchase the magical snack. The girls check their lids, finding one winner and one loser among them. Mel enjoys the sour treat while trying to bring up yesterday's events. A rowdy customer named Garum interrupts by demanding 4 servings at once. Mel pouts in annoyance, visibly irritated by the man's loud interruption. By late afternoon, the shop falls into a peaceful and empty lull. Mel remains behind to focus intensely on a small prize dispensing machine. She screams in total frustration after failing her 21st attempt in a row. Yusuke prepares to eat the lunch that Minerva painstakingly prepared for him. A radiant glow emits from the bento box as the lid is finally removed. He gazes upon an astonishingly gourmet selection of meats, breads, and delicate sweets. Mel leans in with a suspicious look, calling the meal a loving wife's bento. He nervously defends himself, reminding her that Minerva is just a male friend. Both girls trade looks of disbelief while listening to his clumsy explanation. Mira smiles warmly and offers a playful agreement about their supposedly platonic bond. Mel becomes visibly irritated by his inability to recognize obvious romantic intentions. She points a finger and loudly declares that Minerva is absolutely in love. A moment of awkward silence follows the girl's blunt and surprising outburst. Yusuke tries to laugh it off while Mel continues to fume with indignation. He begins to ponder his own oblivious nature, wondering if he missed a sign. The once delicious lunch now feels incredibly heavy with the perceived weight of love. He concludes that it is better to avoid making assumptions without a formal confession. A capsule prize finally clatters into the tray, ending Mel's long streak of bad luck. The group of girls prepares to depart for the day to earn more gold. Yusuke contemplates Minerva's strange kindness compared to the knight's reputation for being cold. He resolves to put the confusing thoughts on hold for the next 3 days. After the wait, Minerva suddenly looms behind him in a dark and mysterious entrance. The knight invites him to venture into the dungeon together for their next mission. Yusuke acknowledges the significant weight of the bento box Minerva prepared for him. Mel points a finger while loudly asserting that Minerva is in love. He later meets with Minerva in a quiet street to begin their day. He reaches out and holds her hand, surprising the armored knight completely. Presenting a small box, he offers a rare elixir as a thank you. He smiles brightly while explaining that he can easily obtain another prize. Minerva clutches the gift to her chest, overwhelmed by his sudden kindness. She closes her eyes and reflects on the warmth of his hands. Watching him walk away, she accepts that he is her fated person. She gazes at the glowing container and wonders if this is love. The knight decides not to cure her current feelings with any medicine. She makes a silent, resolute promise never to let Yusuke go. The next day, Mel and Mira visit the shop with cheerful greetings. They discuss the possibility of a much larger version of their yogurt. Minerva watches from the side with an intense and jealous expression. More adventurers gather around as Yusuke welcomes his friends to the shop. He joyfully declares that the business is now officially open for trading. The narrative shifts to a majestic castle, where a heavy cough echoes. A sick individual lies in a dark bedroom while muttering against a witch. A man with a mustache reacts with profound shock at the mention of panacea. An official questions a knight about a miraculous medicine reportedly sold at a mysterious dungeon shop. Meanwhile, Yusuke enjoys a peaceful afternoon serving snacks to Mel and Mira at his colorful stall. He soon reveals a new capsule toy machine filled with incredibly detailed miniature furniture. Admiring the craftsmanship, he marvels at how even the smallest sofa looks like a work of art. He eventually notices that none of the passing adventurers are interested in trying the new game. Mel approaches him with a knowing smile to explain exactly why the machine is being ignored. She points a finger and bluntly declares that the price for a single toy is simply far too high. Feeling discouraged, Yusuke laments that people cannot appreciate the true value of such high-quality items. A sudden voice shouting praises for the intricate craftsmanship catches him completely off guard. He turns around only to find the area seemingly empty, causing him to look around in confusion. A group of tiny gnomes emerges from the shadows to haul away the furniture they just purchased. Their elderly leader thanks him graciously for providing such wonderful treasures for their tiny homes. As a token of gratitude, he presents a map revealing a hidden hot spring in the dungeon. The mere mention of a bath causes a sudden and explosive reaction from his nearby companions. Minerva looms over them with a dark aura while condemning the idea of immodesty. She envisions a scandalous scene where the other girls take advantage of Yusuke in the water. Trying to diffuse the tension, Yusuke awkwardly explains that they would never bathe together. Mira looks on with wide eyes and wonders why anyone would find a shared bath so strange. Mel highlights her physical charms, causing the others to recoil in a state of pure embarrassment. The armored knight finally loses her composure and screams that she will never permit such a lewd activity. Morning light washes over the stone walls of the city as a new day officially begins. Mel and Mira express their delight about the hot spring trip, while Yusuke recalls the struggle to convince Minerva. The armored knight appears unusually sluggish and dazed as she stands silently with the group. Yusuke wonders if she stayed up all night fighting pests after noticing her dark and exhausted aura. He suggests she take a long nap at the monster-free hot spring, triggering a sharp and indignant rebuttal. Minerva glares with a menacing intensity while vowing to prevent any immodest behavior between her companions. The party begins their descent down a set of narrow stone stairs leading deeper into the earth. Clutching his pack tightly, Yusuke admits this is his very first time actually entering the lower levels. Mel warns him to stay alert, because the threats on the second floor are significantly more dangerous. They arrive at the bottom of the staircase, only to hear a series of strange, rhythmic chirping sounds. The group stops in confusion as the unusual noises echo through the dark and damp stone hallway. Minerva quickly dismisses the sound as mere pigeons that have accidentally wandered into the dungeon depths. She urges everyone to ignore the distractions and press forward despite the increasingly suspicious environment. A sudden memory flashes of a giant, striped mosquito monster that produces a much more irritating drone. The scene shifts to a massive, magical explosion used to incinerate the swarm during a secret nighttime mission. She reveals her plan to use perception-altering magic to disguise the insect's cries as harmless bird chirps. Yusuke remains worried as he watches her stumble from the immense mental strain of her secret task. A savage goblin suddenly leaps from the darkness to launch a surprise attack on the distracted knight. Minerva reacts with incredible speed by drawing her sword and cutting the monster down mid-air. More grotesque creatures emerge from the shadows to surround the group for a coordinated ambush. Minerva effortlessly slashes through a pig-faced monster and a goblin with a single, powerful sword stroke. A brief transition follows as the group navigates the silent, dark corridors of the lower level. Arriving at a seemingly ordinary stone wall, the knight declares they have finally reached their destination. Yusuke examines the dead end while explaining that he must use a special gnome incantation here. Kneeling on the cold floor, he carefully taps a specific rhythm against the solid masonry. A brilliant magical circle erupts under his fist as he recites the secret opening spell. A thin vertical fracture of light begins to tear through the center of the wall. The entire hallway is bathed in a blinding white glow as the stone surface dissolves. A heavy sliding door rumbles open to reveal a hidden passage tucked away from the main path. Scanning the area, Minerva confirms that no monsters are lurking within the newly revealed facility. Mel and Mira cheer with excitement as they step into a spacious, clean-tiled room. The group is greeted by the sight of a massive indoor hot spring filled with steaming water. A steady stream of fresh mineral water pours from a stone spout into the large tub. The companions marvel at the inviting warmth and the clarity of the flowing natural spring. Mira begins joyfully, tossing her gear aside as Yusuke suggests the ladies should bathe first. Sensing someone lingering, the merchant turns to find the armored knight standing motionless against the wall. Minerva sharply rebukes him for his hesitation, loudly reminding him of his gender and proper etiquette. Yusuke laughs off the misunderstanding, while the indignant knight delivers a swift, disciplinary strike. Waving goodbye, he steps out of the room as Mira continues to undress with pure excitement. The heavy sliding door slams shut to provide the girls with complete privacy for their bath. Yusuke and Minerva discuss the magical barrier while standing before an open stone doorway. Suddenly, a vibrant burst of light announces the activation of the shop interface. The merchant's eyes widen in genuine surprise as a new appliance manifests before him. A sleek glass-fronted refrigerator filled with various bottled drinks stands prominently in the room. He explains to the inquisitive Minerva that the device keeps beverages perfectly chilled. A menu appears detailing the magical effects and prices of Ramoon and Nikki sodas. Triumphantly holding up the cold bottles, Yusuke considers the potential of his new stock. Minerva expresses interest in trying a Ramoon specifically to help stabilize her mana. Thick clouds of steam billow out as the girls finish their relaxing soak. Mel and Mira emerge from the hot spring with glowing complexions and bright smiles. Mira marvels at the incredible skin-softening effects of the hidden facility's mineral water. Showing off her new purchase, Mel brandishes a toy-like water gun with excitement. The shop screen explains that the device provides a powerful muscle-relieving massage. Clutching the plastic tool, the girl gushes over how it cured her persistent shoulder pain. Yusuke watches her enthusiasm, while noting the unexpected effectiveness of his peculiar wares. Eager for his turn, the merchant enthusiastically invites the silent knight into the bath. Minerva stands perfectly still against the wall as an awkward silence fills the corridor. Confused by her lack of movement, Yusuke repeats the invitation while she stares back. The knight leans in with a look of pure bewilderment at the suggested arrangement. Minerva begins to shake uncontrollably from intense embarrassment as the realization finally hits her. Minerva turns away in a fluster, her dark aura reflecting her extreme agitation. Yusuke dismisses the tension and points towards the refrigerator to offer chilled drinks. Turning back to the task at hand, the merchant begins to pull off his shirt. He pauses mid-action when he notices Minerva staring at him with glowing, unblinking eyes. Waving her hands frantically, the knight apologizes for witnessing something so unfamiliar to her. As Yusuke adjusts his towel around his waist, he asks if covering up is a local custom. Minerva continues to stare intensely, while cryptically mentioning that she should get used to seeing him. Accepting the strange atmosphere, the merchant waves goodbye and heads toward the bath entrance. Shortly after, a single foot breaks the surface of the clear water with a soft splash. Sinking into the hot spring, Yusuke lets out a sigh of pure contentment and relaxation. He calls out for Minerva to join him and hears her muffled response through the wall. Suddenly, a pixelated silhouette appears at the entrance, catching the merchant completely off guard. The knight explains that her body must remain hidden behind a magical perception-blocking barrier. Yusuke laughs nervously, while worrying that seeing the full truth might actually discourage him. With a polite greeting, The obscured figure steps slowly into the steaming water. Minerva finally settles into the bath with a towel wrapped around her head. The merchant finds himself unable to look away as he stares at the knight beside him. She looks back with wide, swirling eyes, wondering if her magical concealment is actually working. From his perspective, he simply admires the impressive physical build of a high-ranking adventurer. Shifting his focus, the merchant decides it is finally time to test out the recommended water gun. Yusuke looks around the empty room and realizes they need somewhere to sit. Recalling Mira's demonstration, he decides to use the water gun for relaxation. Minerva offers her magical services to create some sturdy stone chairs. A massive magic circle glows brightly as she channels her inner power. 2 heavy blocks of stone appear on the tiled floor for them. The merchant prepares to test the water pressure on his own body. He pulls the trigger and releases a sharp, direct stream of water. Finding it effective, he invites the knight to experience the massage. She shyly turns her back to him while blushing with extreme nervousness. The water jet makes contact with her skin and sends droplets flying. A sudden and loud exclamation of pleasure escapes the knight's lips. Trembling with delight, she praises the incredible sensation of the massage. Yusuke proposes helping her reach the spots she cannot hit herself. The knight's mind begins to race as she misinterprets his innocent offer. Her anxiety peaks as she clenches her hands in a desperate panic. She lashes out in embarrassment and accidentally strikes the merchant. She hides her blushing face while claiming that intimacy is premature. After finishing their soak, the group decides to have some cold drinks. Mira struggles to figure out how to open the sealed Ramoon bottle. The adventurers enjoy the carbonated beverage as it replenishes their magical energy. Yusuke takes a long, refreshing drink from his glass Ramoon bottle. He beams with joy, thoroughly satisfied by the sweet and carbonated flavor. Looking at the bottle, he reflects on how certain drinks carry precious memories. Mira and the knight join him in enjoying the beverages outside the shop. A steady stream of water pours into the basin, maintaining a tranquil atmosphere. The companions rest their legs on the stone benches during their break. Yusuke remarks on how this quiet spot is perfect for a rest area. The group suddenly reacts with surprise as they process his proposal. He exclaims that turning the area into a facility is a great idea. 1 week passes as a new sign is hung above the bathhouse entrance. Separate curtains for men and women are installed at the entrance to the baths. Minerva utilizes her magic to finish building the partitions for the customers. 2 seasoned adventurers approach the shop and place an order for water guns. They talk about how the high-pressure water is the ultimate way to relax. The merchant hears the men praising the massage through the thin facility walls. He greets more customers and hands over cold bottles of Ramoon and Nikki. Nearby, Sanaga handles equipment repairs, while Mira serves her special recovery tea. The 2 stall owners share a friendly conversation about their booming business. A large crowd of adventurers lines up to enter the popular rest facility. An adventurer tries his luck at the popular dungeon-themed arcade game for a prize. An adventurer stands outside the newly named bathhouse, expressing his awe at the establishment. Yusuke wears a strained smile as he overhears customers referring to the place as Yahagi Onsen. Groups of armored warriors continue to file into the facility to enjoy the relaxing atmosphere. The merchant's expression turns to pure shock when he notices a squad of soldiers arriving. A finely polished shoe, adorned with a massive sparkling gem, steps through the doorway. A portly man with a magnificent mustache and expensive clothing looks around the room. His attire is heavily decorated with intricate lace and glowing ornaments, reflecting his high status. A massive jewel glitters on the ring he wears as he makes his presence known. Yusuke stares in disbelief, sweating profusely while trying to identify the mysterious noble visitor. The sign for the bathhouse entrance hangs prominently above the busy doorway. Several soldiers flank the merchant, making him feel cornered and intensely pressured. He laments being surrounded by military personnel once again, his anxiety clearly visible. The wealthy man maintains a stern and unreadable expression as he examines the shop. Mira and her companions look on with deep concern, unsure of how to handle the situation. Fixing a sharp gaze on Yusuke, the man asks if this is indeed Yahagi's candy shop. The merchant gulps nervously while trying to explain that a merchant license isn't required here. A heavy silence fills the air as the noble stares back without saying a word. Suddenly, The man's face softens as he offers a humble apology for the misunderstanding. He raises a hand toward his guard, signaling them to stay back and remain calm. The noble explains that he came after hearing rumors about a legendary elixir being sold. Yusuke exhales a sigh of relief upon learning the noble is simply searching for a rumored elixir, pointing toward a colorful arcade game featuring various monsters as the source of the prize. Taking a moment to explain the specific rules and mechanics of the machine to his visitor, the noble realizes the item isn't for sale, but must be won through the game, pulling out an enormous, glittering gold coin worth a fortune to use for his attempt. Yusuke sweat drops while explaining that he cannot possibly provide change for such a massive sum. The noble frantically turns to his armored guards to ask for a loan of smaller coins. Successfully obtaining the correct change, the wealthy man prepares to take his first shot. Yusuke quickly intervenes to remind the important guest that he must wait in the long queue. Showing surprising humility, the man agrees to follow the established rules of the establishment. A series of rapid sound effects fill the air as the mechanical game begins to operate. The nobleman eventually hangs his head in defeat after exhausting his supply of small change. Narrowing his eyes, the visitor questions if the difficult game is actually winnable at all. Yusuke confidently steps up to the machine with a coin to demonstrate how it's done. The ball bounces through the obstacles and drops perfectly into the designated winning slot. A small, ornate container tumbles down into the prize tray with a clatter. The merchant holds the winnings out on his palm to show the skeptical noble it's possible. Overwhelmed with desperation, the visitor bows low and begs to be given the legendary medicine. Yusuke wears a strained expression while explaining that he cannot make exceptions for game prizes. The man reveals his identity as a high-ranking noble and pleads for the sake of the sick king. Yusuke looks visibly troubled as the persistent noble continues to bow and plead for the medicine. Considering the man's warnings that the kingdom will fall into chaos if the king remains incapacitated, the shop assistant pipes up to express her sympathy for the desperate visitor's plight. Observing the interaction, while Yusuke ponders if he should break his own strict business rules, he finally relents with a heavy sigh and agrees to grant an exception just this once. The nobleman's face illuminates with pure joy and profound gratitude upon hearing the merchant's decision. Shouting orders to his guards, the visitor rushes out of the establishment to deliver the cure. Yusuke remains behind with a strained smile while staring at the massive gold coin left as payment. Turning to Minerva, he questions if the medicine can truly break the witch's powerful curse. She clarifies that the elixir only suppresses the physical symptoms rather than eliminating the magical source, prompting the merchant to realize that the wealthy man will inevitably return once the effect wears off. The armored woman stares off into the distance, while noting that the curse's power is beginning to wane. Surprised by her insider knowledge, Yusuke asks how she could possibly know such specific details. She quickly claims she only heard it from the witch herself, leaving him wondering about their relationship. A simple gradient bridge indicates the end of the day as the story moves forward. The shop doors burst open several days later to announce the arrival of new merchandise. Yusuke reacts with stunned disbelief at the specific items that have finally arrived in stock. A detailed advertisement showcases a Mobile Force Gang Alf plastic model designed for easy assembly. The merchant clarifies that these are hobby items for entertainment, rather than miniature combat golems. Minerva examines the various types of model kits and expresses interest in trying the new hobby. Yusuke carefully snaps a plastic component off the model kit runner with his fingers. He marvels at the ease of the snap-fit design that requires no glue or tools. The merchant quickly finishes the full assembly of the miniature white and blue robot. He checks the articulation by manipulating the mechanical joints of the tiny machine. Reading the manual further, he discovers that the unit can be controlled through mental imagery. The man presses the forehead of the model against his own to synchronize his magic. Placing the figure back on the table, he waits for the synchronization to take effect. Yusuke speaks a firm command for the robot to begin its initial movement. The small plastic legs vibrate intensely as the internal magic tries to activate the joints. With a sudden jerk, the model successfully lifts its leg and steps forward. Seeing the toy move under its own power, he cries out in absolute excitement. Minerva's model kit suddenly marches past his own with significantly better coordination. The merchant stares in disbelief at the high level of control she possesses over the toy. She demonstrates a playful dance with her unit while lecturing him on magic stability. Closing his eyes tight, he focuses all his mental energy on a specific movement pattern. The man shouts the robot's name again while projecting a strong vision of combat. The miniature machine glows slightly as it responds to his refined magical output. It glides across the surface with a much smoother and more deliberate motion. The robot executes a rapid punch that cuts through the air with surprising force. Yusuke celebrates his successful first steps into the world of magical model building. Yusuke's miniature unit begins to glow as he prepares to test its combat capabilities. The robot suddenly fumbles its movement and collapses onto the table in an awkward heap. Grinning mischievously, the merchant explains the rules of professional wrestling to his magical companion. He forces the small machines into a compromising pinning position that leaves Minerva deeply embarrassed. Sylvia and Mira walk into the shop and stare in total shock at the suggestive scene. Yusuke quickly defends his actions by shouting that it is merely a sport called pro wrestling. He spends several minutes explaining the concept of combat sports to the confused group. Sylvia's eyes light up with joy as she claims a mass production model for herself. Mira holds her chosen heavy armored unit close with a sweet and satisfied smile. The girls discuss how these machines allow them to experience movements they lack in real life. Garm joins the excitement by eagerly grabbing a specialized blue combat unit from the shelf. A large crowd of townspeople quickly gathers around the stall to demand their own models. Seeing Sylvia's disappointment over her empty pockets, Yusuke kindly offers to reserve a kit for her. A wooden sign is eventually posted to inform the lingering crowd that all units are sold out. The merchant apologizes to a late customer while feeling the thrill of a massive hit product. Voices rise from the tavern as children brag about their skills in controlling their mechanical warriors. A special arena constructed with Minerva's magic becomes the center of a heated miniature tournament. 4 days later, Yusuke marvels at how every shipment sells out before the morning is over. Sylvia wipes sweat from her brow after securing another hard-fought victory in the ring. She triumphantly asks for a Ramune treat while celebrating her status as the reigning champion. A customized mechanical unit with a red shoulder is shown next to a marker pen. Sylvia happily drinks her celebratory Ramune, while Yusuke watches her with a weary expression. The champion suddenly starts coughing and choking on her drink as Yusuke looks on with concern. Sylvia asks the local blacksmith Sana-san about the price of a miniature battle axe accessory. The blacksmith shows off a tiny sword and mentions how these mini weapons are the newest trend. A diagram explains that mechanical units shut down and are knocked out after receiving significant impact. A man arrives at the shop with his young daughter to ask about purchasing the mechanical toys. The little girl beams with pure happiness as she holds her new toy outside the shop. Later that evening, a person with a large bag leaves the store after completing a transaction. Yusuke gazes at a massive sack of earnings and celebrates the incredible success of his products. He clutches the heavy bag of money tightly while feeling satisfied with his financial gain. The merchant arrives at a large stone building which serves as his new apartment complex. Standing at the entrance, Yusuke expresses his excitement about finally securing a place of his own. He recalls the innkeeper crying and begging him not to leave while he promises to visit. A simple floor plan shows the layout of his new 2-room apartment without a private bath. Just as he settles in, he hears a strange sniffing sound coming from the shadows. Minerva unexpectedly peeks through the doorway while holding a paper bag filled with dinner ingredients. She immediately enters the kitchen area and brandishes a handheld blender to prepare a meal. Yusuke sighs deeply while realizing that his dream of living alone is already being interrupted. Minerva reacts with shocked intensity when the merchant mentions the possibility of getting a girlfriend. Minerva trembles with suppressed rage after the mention of a potential girlfriend. Yusuke explains that a partner would likely object to a male friend visiting his home daily. She agrees with intense passion while shouting that such an intruder would be completely intolerable. The armored woman suddenly becomes shy and asks if he truly desires to find a romantic partner. Feeling awkward, the merchant admits that having someone to talk to would make his life brighter. He puts on a smug expression while boldly claiming he wants to enjoy the nightlife. Minerva reels in shock at the suggestive comment as her face turns red beneath her visor. She fidgets nervously and wonders aloud if he thinks she is disinterested in adult topics. The conversation continues as Yusuke clarifies his boundaries regarding late-night visitors in his new home. Minerva concludes that the merchant simply wants to spend every moment with a future lover. She pumps her fists with renewed resolve and decides to prepare a celebratory feast. A quiet night falls over the apartment building as the pair finishes their shared meal. The guest produces a bottle of brandy and invites Yusuke to have a drink with her. Rich amber liquid flows over clear ice cubes as they begin a late-night drinking session. Minerva pours the alcohol aggressively, while encouraging her host to keep drinking without hesitation. Yusuke begins to feel tipsy and playfully questions if she has some ulterior motive. She turns her head away while concealing her true expression behind a magical mask. Leaning back in a drunken daze, the merchant listens as she probes into his single life. Minerva leans in close to ask about his ideal woman while he smiles with flushed cheeks. She shouts in exasperation when the drunk merchant fails to give her a straight answer. Yusuke imagines Mira with her large chest, thinking she is cute and healing. He then mentions that he also likes energetic girls like Melru. Minerva's aura flares with intense jealousy as she listens to his preferences. The drunken Yusuke mentions they are too young for him, while Minerva reacts with shock. He stares into his drink and reflects on the peaceful atmosphere of sharing a meal. Realization strikes the merchant as he wonders if their current behavior mimics a couple. Minerva poses a hypothetical question about an older woman with great skills and a mature figure. Yusuke mumbles that looks aren't a deal breaker as long as the person is kind. Drifting off into sleep, the host closes his eyes while still sitting on the couch. Minerva slowly reaches for her mask as the light of the room catches the metallic surface. Removing her disguise, she reveals her beautiful face and vows to be gentler with him. The scene fades to black as the night comes to a quiet end. Several days pass until a violent explosion erupts during a heated confrontation in the dungeon. Mira looks on with a sad smile as a group of people celebrates a victory. Yusuke looks completely bewildered when a suggestion is made to hold a major gaming tournament. Melru excitedly jumps at the idea, while Minerva stands behind her with a dark, competitive aura, stroking his chin thoughtfully. The merchant considers the merits of hosting such an event. Melru asks about the prize, while Yusuke mentions he can only offer snacks or toys. He suddenly remembers a much more valuable item tucked away in his inventory. The merchant presents a legendary elixir as the grand prize for the upcoming competition. Melru and the crowd cheer loudly as excitement for the upcoming gaming tournament reaches a fever pitch. Lord Essel bursts through the doorway with his guards, demanding to know if he can join. The nobleman expresses his desperate need for the legendary elixir prize for the king's benefit. Yusuke breaks into a cold sweat as Essel orders his men to purchase every available unit. The setting shifts toward a stone building marked as the entrance to a local hot spring. Melru boldly declares that her specific model will prove to be the strongest of them all. Minerva radiates a menacing aura while standing behind her own formidable mechanical fighter. Confident in her choice, Melru smiles while Yusuke prepares to finalize the list of participants. A diverse group of young and veteran adventurers gathers outside the shop for the grand opening. Yusuke realizes that the toy's popularity spans across generations, regardless of the valuable grand prize. Essel motivates his armored guards to win the elixir as the merchant watches the scene unfold. Standing before the crowd, Yusuke announces that the 32-player tournament is officially beginning. A burly competitor named Smash is introduced alongside his heavy-duty combat machine. The spectators whisper in shock about Smash being a veteran student known as the Black Third Year. A dark and mysterious voice from the shadows observes Smash with a sense of nostalgic recognition. Minerva enters the fray with her customized machine as the announcer calls out her name. The masked girl glares at her opponent, while her dark aura continues to pressure him. Smash trembles in confusion when the mysterious competitor questions why he is still a student. Realizing she spoke too much, the masked girl prepares her machine for the first strike. The signal for the start of the battle sounds as Smash launches a high-speed attack. Minerva's mechanical fighter moves swiftly, catching Smash off guard with its incredible speed, while her machine glows with dark energy as she judges her opponent's immature mana control, leading Smash to scream in frustration when his machine is utterly overwhelmed by a single strike. Afterward, Yusuke congratulates Minerva, while the crowd whispers in awe of the masked Reaper's power. Yet, Minerva secretly blushes under her mask, privately praising herself for her own supposed kindness. Then, she daydreams about winning the entire tournament with one-hit knockouts to charm the merchant, while another spectator looks on thoughtfully, acknowledging the girl's incredible prowess in the arena. Nearby, Melru watches from the sidelines, determined to prove that her own machine is the strongest. As she excitedly explains the custom armor and high-speed wheels added to her unique model, Minerva glares back at the girl, realizing she has a rival aiming for one-hit victories. Before a formal announcement appears, declaring the official conclusion of the tournament's first round, allowing regular customers Mira and Garm to celebrate their successful advancement through the bracket. Meanwhile, Regal hangs his head in disappointment after being eliminated early from the competition. But despite the damage to his machine, he tells Yusuke that he enjoyed himself immensely, and the young man beams with a wide smile, already looking forward to the next tournament, causing Yusuke to laugh nervously while reminding him that the current event is still ongoing. Suddenly, Yusuke looks confused, as a nearby voice expresses even more anticipation for the next event. As Lord Essel laughs heartily despite his defeat, claiming he was just one step away, the nobleman clenches his fists with passion, eager to compete again, even without a grand prize. Finally, Lord Essel whispers to Yusuke that his fellow nobles are already becoming obsessed with the hobby. Lord Essel suddenly stops himself and coughs, hiding a mysterious secret that leaves Yusuke feeling quite confused. Later, Mira and Garm lament their quarter-final loss, as Melru breaks into tears over her semi-final defeat. Meanwhile, the final match reaches a climax as a powerful mechanical limb delivers a crushing blow, resulting in Minerva being officially declared the champion after her machine finishes the fight decisively. Afterward, Yusuke offers his congratulations, while Minerva secretly prides herself on her supposed gentleness during the tournament. Then she turns away to hide an intense blush, overwhelmed with joy after receiving praise from the merchant. Nearby, Mira and Melru concede defeat while admitting that Minerva's technical skill and mana control are unparalleled. Following the victory, Yusuke presents a glowing box containing a legendary elixir as the tournament's grand prize. As the event winds down, Yusuke addresses the gathered crowd about the possibility of holding another competition soon. He shouts with enthusiasm, asking the participants if they would be willing to return for a future event, causing the entire audience to erupt in a massive cheer of approval, while the girls smile at the success. Once the crowd begins to disperse, an attendant bows respectfully at the door to thank the departing guests. Subsequently, Yusuke suggests that they all gather for a special celebration dinner to commemorate the day's hard work, prompting Mira and Melru to leap with excitement as they eagerly discuss where the group should go to eat. While Yusuke mentions a specific restaurant he recommends and turns to ask for Minerva's personal opinion, suddenly, Lord Essel approaches Minerva and bows low to the ground, desperately requesting a moment of her time. The nobleman begins to cry as he begs the champion to hand over the prize elixir to him. He explains that the medicine is needed to treat the king's recurring illness caused by a lingering curse. Seeing the situation, Yusuke decides to head toward the restaurant first, leaving the masked girl to make her choice. Finally, Minerva carelessly tosses the valuable prize to the lord and insists that she requires no thanks for the gesture. The group makes their way through a narrow alley toward the tavern for their celebration. Yusuke questions Minerva about her selfless decision while she remains stoic behind her mask. He suddenly pulls her close with a friendly arm around her shoulder to celebrate. Minerva feels a warm rush of happiness, convinced that her kindness is being rewarded. They finally reach the entrance of a local pub marked by a sign featuring foaming beer. A lively cheer fills the room as the companions raise their glasses high for a toast. Mira and Melru immediately start gulping down their drinks with great enthusiasm. They slam their empty mugs onto the wooden table with a loud and satisfying thud. The two girls demand another round with red faces and joyful expressions. Yusuke looks on with a sweat drop, questioning their surprising tolerance for alcohol. A cheerful waitress arrives at the table with a bright smile to deliver the next course. She sets down a massive plate of steaming fried chicken that looks incredibly appetizing. Melru bites into a drumstick and loudly proclaims that it goes perfectly with beer. Mira gracefully agrees while holding her glass, noting that it matches her wine as well. Minerva offers some of her own drink to Yusuke, suggesting it might be to his liking. He happily agrees to try a sip with a bright and innocent smile. The realization of sharing a glass suddenly hits Minerva as she stares at her drink. Yusuke takes a refreshing sip from the glass, while Minerva panics over the indirect kiss. He praises the sweetness of the wine and suggests ordering an entire bottle for them. Minerva becomes so embarrassed that she forcefully shoves the bottle into his mouth. The night deepens outside the tavern as the group's raucous celebration finally begins to wind down. Yusuke leans heavily against his companions with a flushed face, clearly overwhelmed by the strong drinks. Minerva steps forward to take charge, insisting that she will personally escort the drunken merchant home. Mira and Melru wave a cheerful farewell as they disappear down the quiet cobblestone street. A mischievous and triumphant smirk spreads across Minerva's face once she is finally alone with him. She secretly celebrates the success of her plan to lead him back to her own room. Yusuke continues to mumble incoherently in his dazed state, completely unaware of Minerva's ulterior motives. She considers the prospect of helping him undress to ensure he can rest as comfortably as possible. A vivid fantasy of watching his peaceful sleeping face fills her mind with sudden excitement. As they reach her residence, she struggles with the temptation to be even bolder during the night. Eventually, Yusuke settles into a deep slumber and lets out a soft, rhythmic groan. Light reflects off the tiled ceiling as the morning sun officially signals the start of a new day. Yusuke slowly pushes himself up from the bed while clutching his head in groggy confusion. His attention is drawn to his collar as he realizes someone has tampered with his clothing. His gaze drifts toward the wall where his vest hangs neatly on a wooden peg. Feeling the lingering effects of the alcohol, he decides to seek out a refreshing bath. Remembering Minerva's permission to use the facilities, he drops his laundry in a heap. Humming a light tune, he swings the door open and prepares to step inside. His heart stops as he catches sight of a silhouette through the thick clouds of vapor. He stands frozen while staring at the long hair of the person already occupying the tub. The silhouette in the bath reveals a woman's pale skin and long flowing hair. She suddenly turns around with a look of pure astonishment on her face. Her wide, sparkling eyes meet Yusuke's gaze through the humid air of the room. The merchant stands completely petrified by the unexpected encounter while his jaw drops. He frantically slams the door shut and screams a desperate apology through the wood. Leaning against the wall, he clutches his bare chest while his heart beats uncontrollably. A sense of panic washes over him as he opens his dimensional shop interface. He quickly locates a tin of mini cola candies designed for their calming effects. Popping several into his mouth, he covers his face to hide his intense embarrassment. The small round candies rattle inside the container as he takes another dose. Letting out a long sigh, he waits for the medicinal properties to soothe his nerves. He agonizes over the situation, wondering why Minerva would bring a guest over now. Sitting at the dining table, he decides that a formal apology is absolutely necessary. The sound of a handle turning echoes through the house as a door creaks open. The mysterious girl from the bath peeks tentatively into the room with a worried expression. Yusuke immediately stands and bows low to introduce himself while apologizing for the intrusion. He studies her features closely and begins to feel a strange sense of familiarity. The girl fidgets nervously in the doorway while blushing deeply at the awkward meeting. Suddenly, a spark of memory flashes through Yusuke's mind as the realization finally hits him. He recalls a wanted poster for the witch Michelle that perfectly matches the girl's face. Minerva hides behind the doorframe while correcting Yusuke's assumptions about her identity. Confused, Yusuke asks for clarification as he tries to process her cryptic words. She tearfully shouts the truth that she is actually Minerva, looking deeply pained. A single tear glistens in her wide, sparkling eye during the emotional revelation. Yusuke stands in absolute silence with his mouth agape at the shocking news. He swallows nervously as the realization of her true form begins to sink in. Her discarded silver mask rests on the ground as he recalls their many interactions. The merchant confirms that his friend is actually the notorious wanted witch, Michelle. He admits to having past suspicions that were obscured by her clever, magical disguises. Her long black hair flows freely now that her perception-blocking spells have vanished. Looking up with a trembling lip, she asks if he hates her for lying. Yusuke quickly shakes more calming candies into his palm to maintain his composure. He tosses them back frantically while trying to settle his chaotic emotions. Offering her a candy, he tells her to sit down so they can talk. She accepts the treat and begins chewing it with a shy, tentative expression. The sound of them eating together fills the quiet space between the two friends. An empty candy tin rolls across the floor as he asks why she revealed herself. Yusuke watches her closely, hoping to understand the reason behind her sudden honesty. Blushing deeply, she looks him in the eyes and confesses her romantic feelings. He gazes back at her in stunned silence, paralyzed by the weight of her words. Yusuke reflects on the warmth of receiving a sincere romantic confession for the very first time. Despite her criminal status, he smiles bashfully while admitting that her feelings make him genuinely happy. Michelle beams with pure joy as her face radiates a brightness never seen on her wanted posters. She leans in with intense energy and asks if he will finally become her official lover. As the night deepens outside the house, Yusuke shifts the conversation toward a more serious topic. He asks her to explain the truth of what transpired between her and the kingdom's ruler. Her expression shifts instantly into a stern pout that perfectly mirrors her infamous fugitive illustration. She looks away with a grumpy frown while contemplating whether to share her troubled past. Sitting together at the table, she admits that the memories are painful and difficult to revisit. Yusuke gazes at her with firm determination and insists on understanding her true self completely. Hearts sparkle in her eyes as she enthusiastically agrees to share every detail of her life. A flashback reveals a younger Michelle wearing a graduation cap in front of the Grand Magic Academy. She explains her rapid advancement from a top student to a faculty teacher at only 18. During her teaching days, her groundbreaking magical theories earned her a reputation as a literal genius. She assumes the king only wanted to marry her for the strategic advantage of her power. When asked if she ever loved him, she shakes her head violently to deny any affection. Recalling her lonely childhood, she describes how she used magic to retaliate against cruel schoolyard bullies. She looks down sadly while explaining how the sudden marriage proposal left her feeling confused and overwhelmed. Curious about her younger years, Yusuke asks for specific examples of the magical revenge she took. She lists a series of mischievous pranks involving nightmares and overflowing plumbing, while he listens with a stunned expression. Michelle pouts with extreme annoyance while recalling how the king abruptly canceled their engagement for another woman. As Yusuke listens intently and asks if this other woman is indeed the current queen of the realm, she looks away with a dismissive expression while explaining that she and the queen are old acquaintances. A dark flashback depicts the Shadowed King and his new bride mockingly informing Michelle of their upcoming nuptials. She describes the queen as a woman who wore tasteless dresses and laughed at her with pure condescension. Fueled by rage, Michelle reveals how she placed a potent 3-year curse on the king right then and there. Back in the present, she stands in a gloomy silence that prompts Yusuke to worry about her emotional state. He asks if the memories still cause her pain, but she insists that she never truly loved the king. Tears well up in her eyes as he questions why she is crying, if the relationship meant nothing. She turns toward the dark window in silence while he wonders if she harbors hidden regrets about her past. Suddenly, she clarifies that her only regret is failing to successfully land a curse on the queen herself. She fumes with a comical anger over the queen's annoying innate ability to resist even the strongest magical attacks. The perspective shifts to the quiet exterior of the house as Michelle concludes her long and turbulent tale. She fidgets nervously and looks down at the floor while struggling to find the right words to speak. With a sudden burst of courage, she looks up with a blushing face and asks if he will love her. Yusuke rubs the back of his neck and awkwardly suggests that they should perhaps start as friends first. Her eyes sparkle with joy as she points out that they have already established a friendship between them. He clarifies his offer by asking if she would like to begin dating as the next logical step. Michelle pauses with a blank, surprised expression as she tries to process the weight of his genuine proposal. She leans forward with glowing excitement and asks if he is truly willing to date an infamous fugitive. Yusuke blushes and scratches his head while formally accepting the start of their dating relationship. Michelle beams with radiant joy and clasps her hands together, promising to stay with him forever. The view shifts to the exterior of the house at night as Yusuke considers the risks ahead. A dark gradient panel creates a pause in the narrative as the scene transitions to the next day. Yusuke prepares to depart and asks if she is truly comfortable with him returning to his apartment. Michelle clenches her fists and wonders if her plain personality has failed to keep his interest. He reassures her with a kind smile and suggests meeting up in front of the dungeon later. The door closes softly as she watches him leave, leaving her alone with her thoughts. Her gaze falls upon a wooden box on the table as she reevaluates its intended purpose. She turns away and decides that the item she bought is no longer necessary for her plans. A pair of heavy metal shackles is tossed into a bucket and abandoned for good. Michelle smiles with pure happiness because her relationship with Yusuke has finally become official. Near the hot spring entrance, a young girl stares intently with a look of deep suspicion. An armored knight holds up a wrapped lunch while hearts float around her in the air. Yusuke laughs warmly and thanks the knight for the meal during their pleasant encounter. The group talks about the rising summer temperatures, while a witness watches them from a distance. The girl's eyes widen in utter disbelief as she continues to observe their intimate behavior. She tells her companion that the distance between the two has drastically closed recently. Her imagination runs wild with worry that the knight might have made a move on Yusuke. Her friend smiles playfully and warns her that such constant worrying might hinder her physical growth. Mira orders snacks while weeping quietly over the group's increasingly close interactions. Yusuke asks if she plans to hunt the valuable but tricky gas ghost monster. Mel recovers her energy and enthusiastically announces her goal to visit Garju Mountain. She describes how the blooming flowers attract many people to the mountain during this season. The mood becomes serious as she comments on the country's unstable and declining prospects. Minerva raises a finger to her lips to signal for more discretion in public. A memory surfaces of a weak adventurer being extorted for money inside the dungeon. Mel continues to praise the mountain's beauty, despite the many rumors surrounding it. Yusuke ponders the suggestion and thinks about inviting Minerva to join him there. Mira remains hidden and sweats profusely while watching them with an intense gaze. She feels a pang of insecurity while comparing her own appearance to Minerva's. Night falls over the city and illuminates the exterior of Yusuke's quiet apartment building. He shares a meal with Michelle and inquires if her research has been keeping her busy. Yusuke reveals his plan to take a break and invites her to Garju Mountain. Michelle stares back with wide eyes and a dropped jaw at the unexpected invitation. Her wooden spoon falls onto the table with a sharp clatter during the silence. He looks away with a blush and confirms that he is formally asking for a date. She hunches over in a state of pure shock as her heart begins to pound. Michelle frantically asks for a tiny soda to help her cope with her racing heart. She stares blankly while clutching the small drink and processing the wonderful news. Michelle enthusiastically accepts the invitation with a shout of total commitment. On the day of the outing, a carriage waits outside the building. Yusuke offers his hand to help his date step out into the street. Minerva emerges in her full plate armor and takes his hand. He muses to himself about the peculiarity of escorting a knight. Inside the carriage, Minerva opens a package and takes a bite. She holds out the box to offer Yusuke a piece of the candy. The box is revealed to be a pack of cocoa-flavored sugar sticks. They sit across from each other while holding the treats like cigarettes. Yusuke leans out to tell the driver to stop by a restaurant. The carriage proceeds through the city streets as they talk about food. They arrive at a prestigious restaurant to pick up their reserved order. A staff member presents a beautiful floral lunchbox to the pair. Minerva expresses her joy at the prospect of eating home-cooked meals later. Yusuke suddenly looks up when he hears the coachman addressing him. The driver kindly offers a box of matches for what he thinks are cigarettes. A long moment of quiet follows as the pair processes the mistake. Yusuke clarifies with an embarrassed grin that they are only eating candy. They share a small chuckle together while the confused driver looks on. The carriage finally exits the city through the massive stone gates for their journey. The carriage continues its steady journey under a clear and open sky. Yusuke snaps out of his thoughts as the driver announces their imminent arrival. He gazes out at the majestic Garju Mountain, looming large in the distance. Both travelers are taken aback by the overwhelming crowd of tourists at the base. Despite the mass of people, they resolutely decide to begin their mountain ascent. The pair makes their way through a lushly forested path towards the summit. Their footsteps crunch rhythmically against the sun-dappled mountain terrain. Beautiful clusters of hanging wisteria-like flowers sway gently in the breeze. A breathtaking vista of the valley unfolds beneath the blooming vines. They both stand in silent awe of the shimmering pink and purple landscape. Minerva catches his attention as she prepares to share a local mountain legend. She shyly explains that couples who kiss here are granted eternal happiness. She quickly dismisses the thought because her helmet visor remains firmly closed. Yusuke suddenly activates his magical interface to summon a clever solution. He selects a pack of monster smoke cards from his infinite inventory. His fingers move deftly as he prepares to trigger the card's special effect. A thick cloud of magical vapor begins to billow out between his hands. The merchant grins as the dense fog completely obscures them from the public. In the privacy of the smoke, he gently asks her to remove her mask. The metal latch clicks as she finally begins to unveil her face. Minerva reveals her blushing face and shyly admits her insecurity about her appearance. Yusuke responds with a gentle smile and reassures her that she is truly beautiful. The two finally share a tender kiss as magical smoke and petals surround them. This intimate moment slowly fades into darkness as the scene transitions away from the peaks. The focus shifts back to town, where traditional banners hang outside a local bathhouse. A young girl enthusiastically discusses the news of the pair's private mountain trip. Yusuke looks on with an exhausted expression as his companions continue to tease him. Nearby, Minerva stands motionless, while a dark and intense aura radiates from her helmet. She stares forward with a singular focus that makes the merchant sweat with nervousness. The group's excitement peaks as they jokingly conclude that a romantic relationship has blossomed. A small box of sour snacks is presented to provide a brief distraction from the gossip. One of the girls winces at the sharp taste while receiving playful health advice. The narrative moves toward a majestic castle standing tall against the bright horizon. A portly attendant with a large mustache watches two mechanical knights duel on a table. The king and queen control the miniature warriors as they exchange heavy blows. With a sudden strike, one of the armored figures topples over to end the battle. The king bursts into loud laughter, while his quiet advisor observes the playful display. His queen offers high praise for his tactical prowess during their leisure time. She then leans in close with a dark and hungry look in her eyes. The royal couple embraces passionately as decorative hearts fill the air around them. Essel looks visibly flustered while attending to his royal duties. Meanwhile, the royal couple shares a private laugh over their recent victory. The advisor quickly retreats from the room to leave them in peace. He contemplates the weight of his responsibilities with a grim expression. Outside the castle walls, the sun sets over the sprawling kingdom. A carriage rumbles through the countryside, past herds of grazing sheep. Yusuke peeks through the window to admire the local scenery. The transport nears the impressive entrance of Lord Essel's vast territory. He recalls the nobleman's kind invitation to visit his distant estate. Inside the coach, the travelers enjoy sweet snacks during the long journey. They discuss the region's famous gourmet lamb dishes with watering mouths. The vehicle eventually pulls up to the front of a magnificent building. Yusuke and Minerva stare in disbelief at the sheer scale of the mansion. Essel welcomes his guests with his signature friendly and rounded smile. The group settles into a massive library to express their gratitude. Minerva casts a soothing healing spell to ease Yusuke's travel-worn back. A refined maid arrives to provide refreshments for the weary party. The merchant proposes setting up a temporary stall for the city's festival. He accepts the offer to tour the festival grounds the very next day. Minerva's eyes flash with hidden excitement at the mention of sharing a hotel. The travelers arrive at a grand, multi-story hotel with an incredibly ornate stone facade. Yusuke feels overwhelmed by the luxury, while Minerva breathes heavily with an intense focus. A polite bellhop greets the pair and offers to carry their heavy travel bags. He leads them into a lavish suite featuring 2 large beds and elegant curtains. The merchant stands frozen in shock at the high-end accommodations as the porter leaves. Yusuke suddenly halts the staff member to ask a pressing question about their arrangement. He nervously clarifies if they are truly expected to share the single suite provided. The porter apologetically explains that the local festival has left the hotel completely booked. The heavy door shuts firmly to signal the end of the conversation regarding alternative rooms. Yusuke suggests finding another inn, while Minerva hides her face behind her armored mask. She reminds him of their past travels, while her hands tremble with a strange energy. The warrior argues that sleeping in the same room is a perfectly normal occurrence. She frantically insists that every other lodging in the city must be full anyway. Yusuke gives a reassuring smile and promises to behave like a perfect gentleman tonight. Minerva begins to blush furiously and fidgets with her fingers in a shy manner. She looks up with shimmering eyes and suggests that a little mischief might be acceptable. The flustered merchant quickly changes the subject and prepares to head out for work. The duo reaches the main festival venue, which is already packed with lively crowds. They push through the bustling streets to inspect the area before the official celebration begins. Yusuke finally locates a prime empty space on the cobblestones to set up his candy shop. A small, polished arena stage is unveiled to set the scene for the upcoming demonstration. Yusuke excitedly announces the official opening of his festival stall to the gathering public. The vibrant shop named Yahagi stands out against the backdrop of the traditional city. Local children stare in wide-eyed wonder at the mysterious merchandise lining the shelves. The merchant enthusiastically beckons the crowd to approach and sample his popular treats. Remembering a promise to promote mobile force, Yusuke turns to Minerva for assistance. He requests that the former champion perform a live martial arts demonstration with the toys. A miniature mechanical figure stands ready as it begins to perform complex combat maneuvers. The young onlookers are captivated as the small doll moves with surprising fluid grace. Yusuke presents a packaged box while explaining how magic power fuels the tiny warriors. The children's excitement turns to gloom when they hear the expensive 300 rim price tag. Suddenly, an elderly gentleman steps forward and offers to purchase a toy for the boy. The rest of the group scampers off to find their parents and secure some funds. Yusuke suggests that the buyers should learn advanced techniques directly from the reigning champion. He encourages a blushing Minerva to utilize her experience as a former Magic Academy instructor. She reluctantly accepts the role and summons a young student to begin the first lesson. Darkness eventually settles over the town while the festive atmosphere remains as lively as ever. A prominent wooden sign is posted to announce that the mobile force toys are sold out. Yusuke expresses his deep gratitude for the high sales, while Minerva reacts with modest shyness. He looks on with a nervous sweat after realizing she crushed every child in the arena. Yusuke suggests walking back to the hotel while the stars begin to twinkle. The majestic hotel building towers over the street under the serene night sky. Once inside, Yusuke collapses onto the soft bed to recover from his exhaustion. Minerva smiles while holding her ceremonial headgear and preparing to change her clothes. He obediently covers his eyes when she requests a moment of privacy to dress. The rustle of fabric echoes through the quiet room while Yusuke remains blinded. She gives the signal to look, and Yusuke eagerly opens his eyes again. He gasps in total astonishment as his face turns white with pure shock. Minerva stands before him in a breathtaking and revealing black evening gown. She shyly asks if he likes it while offering to cast a truth-verifying spell. Yusuke decides to order room service so they can dine while she stays dressed. The night proceeds in silence as a dark transition marks the passing hours. Bright morning light spills through the window as the curtains flutter in the breeze. Yusuke wakes up with a cheerful glow and a wide smile on his face. He asks Minerva if she slept well while looking completely energized and refreshed. Minerva stares back with a grumpy pout and obvious signs of a sleepless night. She grumbles about her lack of rest, while Yusuke laughs about his own deep sleep. The frustrated woman threatens to wear even more provocative attire to keep him awake. Yusuke offers a container of calming cola-flavored candies to help her settle down. Colorful festival banners wave in the morning air as the town comes alive again. Yusuke and Minerva marvel at the massive crowd filling the festival grounds. The shop curtain for Yahagi's stall flutters as business officially begins. Yusuke breaks into a cold sweat upon seeing a huge line forming. He realizes the crowd is gathered specifically to buy his mobile force models. A sudden commotion catches his attention as people begin shouting nearby. A group of townspeople erupts into jubilant cheers over a recent victory. Yusuke asks a customer for details and learns about the army's triumph. He recalls a previous conversation about the ongoing border war. The customer explains that General Bardos will soon arrive for a triumphal return. He worries about how crowded the festival will become with the victory celebration. Yusuke and Minerva snack on cocoa cigars while discussing the general's reputation. Minerva expresses her disdain for the man while describing him as a womanizer. Yusuke confirms that he still has stock available for the eager customers. A quiet moment passes as the scene transitions forward in time. 2 days later, the festive atmosphere remains vibrant throughout the city. Yusuke counts his remaining stock on the final day of the festival. A massive shadow suddenly looms over the counter and darkens the display. He looks up in total shock at a colossal, armored warrior towering above. 2 stunning female companions stand beside the giant as he approaches the stall. Yusuke stares in awe at the elf woman while confirming her mythical existence. The armored giant fixes Yusuke with an incredibly intense and frightening stare before his expression suddenly softens into a loud and boisterous grin. Yusuke nervously confirms the availability of his models, while the warrior's booming voice echoes, "A specific model kit is selected from the counter as the group inspects the box." The merchant quickly presents a variety of miniature weapons crafted by a skilled blacksmith. The beautiful elf woman leans in to admire the intricate details of the accessories. Her companion with glasses suggests a whip-like weapon, while adjusting her spectacles thoughtfully. The massive warrior closes his eyes and considers his choices with deep concentration. He eventually picks out a sleek greatsword that catches his eye. When asked about defensive gear, he laughs and claims he only needs both hands for his sword. The glasses-wearing woman prepares the payment as the group decides to assemble the kit immediately. A brief lapse in time occurs as the group shifts their focus to the task at hand. The miniature mobile suit stands fully constructed and ready for action on the table. The giant begins testing the articulation by posing the model in a striking sword stance. A wide slashing motion demonstrates the fluid movement of the well-engineered joints. Bardos marvels at the impressive range of motion, while Yusuke watches his enthusiastic display. The warrior turns his attention back to the merchant and asks for a champion's guidance. Yusuke looks toward Minerva for approval as she prepares herself for a challenge. 2 models are placed facing one another to commence an impromptu demonstration match. The commander smiles eagerly as he declares that formal introductions are unnecessary for their duel. Minerva takes a deep breath and prepares for the match with a determined gaze, while Yusuke and the other onlookers watch the tension build with bated breath. The 2 miniature warriors stand perfectly still across from each other in the arena. Suddenly, one of the models slides across the table to initiate the first strike. The opposing figure plants its feet firmly to meet the incoming charge head-on. They collide with a massive surge of kinetic energy that sends sparks flying. Minerva's model appears to be losing ground as it is pushed back by the force. A flash of light glints off the mechanical eye as the intensity of combat rises. A whirlwind of steel follows as both fighters trade lightning-fast blows with one another. One figure weaves through the attacks with incredible speed and precise maneuvering. A foot skids across the wooden surface to find a more advantageous position. The model lurches forward in a desperate dash to overwhelm the opponent's defenses. Bardos commands a heavy overhead swing that aims to end the fight quickly. A blinding explosion of light marks the moment the 2 weapons finally intersect. The sheer force of the impact causes a brilliant burst of energy to erupt. One of the miniature suits finally loses its balance and collapses onto the table. The surrounding audience erupts into cheers as they celebrate the spectacular display of skill. The massive warrior smiles warmly and admits that he has been soundly defeated. Minerva looks down at her model while processing the thrill of the hard-fought victory. The commander lets out a hearty laugh and vows to return for a rematch. Bardos waves farewell to the group, expressing his gratitude for the enjoyable match. While Yusuke and his companion discuss the unique aura the commander left behind, the woman reveals that the warrior is actually the king's brother and a general. Meanwhile, the grand architecture of the royal estate stands tall against the sky. The jolly noble Grand Sam appears with a satisfied look on his face. Minerva and her friends gather inside the lavish room to recount their recent visit. A mysterious grin spreads across someone's face as they contemplate their next move. The entrance to the hot springs remains quiet under the carved wooden sign. Mira and Mel stop in their tracks upon seeing a notice of temporary closure. They discuss Yusuke's absence while he visits the flashy noble's distant territory. Walking through the streets, they reminisce about the delicious local cuisine found there. Both girls drool slightly while imagining the perfect pairing of lamb and drinks. A sense of loneliness washes over them as they realize how much they miss the shop. Mel suddenly spots something in a shop window and calls for her friend's attention. The two girls find themselves staring at a colorful display of summer swimsuits. Mira picks out a particularly daring outfit while Mel reacts with pure shock. A vivid imagination of the swimsuit's impact likens the wearer to a powerful siege weapon. Mel playfully teases a blushing Mira about wanting to impress Yusuke with the look. Mira tries to hide her embarrassment while her face turns a deep shade of red. Mel eventually picks up a hanger herself to consider joining in on the fun. A high price tag hangs from a swimsuit, signaling a steep cost for the garment. Mel reels from the sticker shock, while Mira remains cheerful about their potential shopping spree. The scene transitions through a dark gradient. A luxurious hotel under Grand Sam's ownership glows brightly against the night sky. A large pouch overflows with sparkling coins from the day's profits. Yusuke gleefully clutches the heavy bag of earnings with a wide smile. Inside a lavish room, Michelle congratulates him on the incredible success of their recent sales. A pair of old sneakers sits on the floor, reminding Yusuke of his humble beginnings. Michelle is visibly taken aback when Yusuke offers to buy her a present. She mumbles about an upcoming anniversary, while he watches her with a puzzled look. Another transition occurs as time passes to the following day. Sunlight hits the grand estate of the noble Essel as the morning begins. Yusuke sits in a library and expresses his gratitude for the 3 days of hospitality. The jolly noble Grand Sam shares his satisfaction with the growth of the toy brand. Leaning in close, the noble begins to whisper a tempting new business opportunity. He formally proposes moving the candy shop to a prime location in the capital. Yusuke sighs with exhaustion as he processes the magnitude of the suggestion. He reflects on the contrast between his simple wooden shop and a major city development. Expressing his modesty, he explains that he only intends to serve local children and adventurers. Grand Sam argues that his high-value products are worth a much higher price point in the capital. Yusuke looks determined, while stating that his business isn't solely driven by the pursuit of profit. Grand Sam closes his eyes and sighs deeply after hearing the merchant's firm moral resolve. The noble admits he misspoke and politely asks Yusuke to forget his previous aggressive proposal. Michelle enjoys a delicious snack, while Yusuke listens to the noble's next request with curiosity. Grand Sam asks if Yusuke would consider selling his Mobile Force toys in the capital's shops. Yusuke ponders the proposal, while Michelle continues to happily enjoy her treats in the background. The merchant remains deep in thought, as the noble waits patiently for an official answer. Grand Sam offers to handle the sales on consignment, without taking any commission for himself. Accepting the generous offer, Yusuke agrees to provide 30 boxes of products, every single day. Excited by the deal, the noble suggests that this partnership will lead to a major tournament. Michelle looks satisfied with her drink as Yusuke gives his enthusiastic approval for the tournament. Looking out from the grand balcony, they agree to meet again soon in the royal capital. A dark transition indicates a shift in time as the scene begins to change. 1 week passes, and the story transitions to the grand architecture of the royal capital. A fresh collection of Mobile Force toy boxes sits ready for distribution to the capital's vendors. Yusuke delivers the goods and collects the previous day's profits outside a large, elegant building. The summer sun beats down intensely, while Yusuke pauses to catch his breath under clear skies. He reflects on how much time has passed since returning from the noble's luxurious estate. Stepping toward the familiar stone structure, he arrives at the official entrance of the dungeon. Brandishing his card with a smile, he prepares to open for business at the dungeon's hot spring. A refreshing bowl of shaved ice appears as the newest addition to the shop's menu. Yusuke marvels at the magical freezer that automatically produces large blocks of ice for his machine. He proudly displays a traditional ice banner to attract customers passing by his shop entrance. Noticing the new sign immediately, a group of female adventurers stops to investigate the recent changes. The merchant greets them warmly and offers a special tasting of his latest chilled creation. The mechanical shaver goes to work, turning solid ice into a pile of fluffy white snow. He offers a variety of vibrant syrup flavors while the girls choose their favorite colors. 3 colorful bowls of shaved ice sit ready for consumption under the sweltering summer heat. One adventurer takes a large spoonful and feels the instant chill of the frozen dessert. Their faces light up with pure delight as they savor the refreshing and sweet flavors. Yusuke explains that the treat provides a temporary buff to survive the dungeon's intense temperatures. Hearing about the heat resistance, they discuss hunting fire rats on the dungeon's 3rd floor. He presents a tube of condensed milk as a premium topping to further boost their stamina. The thick syrup flows over the ice, adding a layer of creamy sweetness to the treat. The adventurers are completely won over by the upgraded taste and luxurious feel of the snack. Finishing their bowls, they declare their intent to earn enough for new summer swimsuits. Yusuke enjoys his own portion while questioning the existence of a pool within the capital. A panoramic view shows how the city diverted a nearby river to create a massive bathing area. The girls enthusiastically invite him to join their trip to the pool as a gesture of gratitude. One adventurer strikes a flirtatious pose while imagining how the merchant will react to her summer attire. Minerva suddenly looms behind the merchant with an intimidating and shadowy presence. She maintains a stern expression as she observes the lively interaction at the shop. The female adventurers bid their farewells and set off toward the dangerous dungeon depths. Yusuke politely declines the group's invitation to the pool, leaving his companion puzzled. He justifies his decision by citing his responsibilities as a merchant and his personal loyalties. Shifting the mood, the merchant offers Minerva a portion of the refreshing shaved ice. An intense brain freeze takes hold as she struggles with the sudden cold sensation. Elsewhere on the 3rd floor, a fire rat falls under a swift and lethal strike. A bounty of glittering gold coins drops from the defeated beast onto the cavern floor. The young adventurer celebrates her massive earnings with a look of pure excitement. They acknowledge that the merchant's chilled treat is the key to their survival in the heat. Fueled by the successful hunt, the girl encourages her teammate to press on further. Her companion appears slightly discouraged, despite the profitable progress they are making. She expresses disappointment that their plan to bring the merchants along did not work. The other adventurer awkwardly attempts to mask her own feelings regarding the pool trip. They remain focused on their ultimate prize of acquiring the finest summer swimwear. A sudden realization about the merchant's romantic life strikes one of the girls with shock. She notes the intimate bond between Yusuke and Minerva as they interact back at shop. Feeling sympathetic, she looks on with a sad expression for her friend's unrequited crush. Another fire rat scurries across the volcanic landscape as the hunt continues. The young adventurer boasts about her success, while her companion watches with a weary expression. She laughs maniacally while effortlessly slicing through a pair of flaming rodents. A sword suddenly pierces a fire rat, catching the hunter completely off guard. Garm reveals himself with a confident and knowing smirk. He speaks with an air of superiority, while the girl looks on with annoyance. Flashing a thumbs up, he shares his secret about using condensed milk on the ice. The girl shouts across the water in a fit of competitive rage. A dark gradient transitions the story forward through time. The summer sun blazes brightly through the dense foliage of a tree. The adventurers finally arrive at the water, dressed in their stylish new swimwear. Their arrival causes a stir as the local men stare and blush in admiration. A shadow falls over her eyes as she acknowledges the merchant's role in their success. She maintains a playful yet determined look while her friend watches closely. One girl points out an interesting feature of the resort to her companion. A tall wooden water slide stands as the centerpiece of the outdoor pool. Excitement takes over as she runs toward the slide while her friend tries to slow her down. A look of hesitation and worry crosses her face as she considers her next move. Loud protests and insistent shouting echo through the air as the friends continue their banter. Sunlight glints off the roof of the brick apartment building. Beautifully prepared plates of chilled pasta and vegetable terrine are served. The companions enjoy a quiet meal together while discussing the intense summer heat. But a sudden nervous energy takes over as she fidgets and cracks her knuckles, while her friend watches with growing confusion, wondering what is weighing on her mind. She finally stands up and asks him to wait just a moment longer, as the door clicks shut behind her, leaving him alone with his thoughts. Vivid and terrifying imaginations of what she might reveal begin to cloud his mind. Moments later, he hears a click and her voice calling out that she is ready. His eyes widens in complete and utter shock at the sight before him, as she steps out, wearing a stunning black bikini that leaves him speechless. Blushing deeply, she explains that she wanted to show him this special outfit. He softens his expression and sincerely tells her how beautiful she looks. Curiosity leads him to ask where she got it, only to learn she crafted it herself. She reveals even more surprising news by mentioning she made a matching set. Fear strikes him instantly, as he imagines a much more revealing style for himself. To his immense surprise, she holds up a perfectly normal pair of swim trunks. A wave of genuine relief washes over him upon seeing the modest design. They continue their conversation about the pride she takes in her handiwork. An inspired thought occurs to him while he prepares for their next activity. He suggests filling the bathtub to create their own private indoor pool. She happily agrees and hums a tune while heading off to prepare the water. He reflects on her joyful expression with a gentle smile on his face. Suddenly he activates his special ability as a large shop opening sign appears. He brings out a bag of colorful water balloons that were once overlooked toys. The two friends enjoy a playful water balloon fight while cooling off in the pool. Nearby, their companions scream with delight while rushing down a large water slide. Later on, the boy hears someone calling his name and turns around to see who it is. He finds his friends Mel and Mila waiting for him early in the morning. They notice that he isn't carrying any of his usual gear today. With a mysterious grin, he leads them toward the entrance of the hot springs. He once again triggers his unique shop skill with a burst of energy. Mila gasps in shock as his heavy backpack materializes out of thin air. Before they can even process what happened, he makes the bag vanish instantly. He explains how convenient his new storage ability is, sparking a bit of jealousy. While they talk, he ponders the rapid evolution of his magical level-up skills. A collection of plastic model kits for a series called Mobile Force sits on display. Shortly after, he encounters Regal, who greets him with a polite bow and a bright smile. She beams with excitement while talking about her recent progress in training. To prove her point, she conjures a small but steady flame above her palm. She credits her improved magic control to the practice of building model kits. Meanwhile, Michelle smiles warmly as a small mechanical model stands prominently in the foreground. A dark gradient marks a sudden transition in time as the surroundings begin to shift. The stone entrance of a new structure suddenly appears with a loud announcement of opening. Both companions stand, completely frozen in disbelief, at the sight of a building in the dungeon. They stare at a traditional candy store facade that has manifested directly into the stone walls. The girl asks in shock what this is, while the boy offers a nervous smile. He explains that his magic level likely increased as his friend remains skeptical of the situation. She touches the wooden walls of the shop, marveling at how it is embedded in rock. Inviting her inside, the boy slides open the entrance to reveal the shop's interior space. They step into a room filled with shelves holding various traditional snacks and small trinkets. While she finds the atmosphere strange, he expresses a warm feeling of nostalgia for his home. He points toward a raised tatami floor and instructs her to remove her shoes first. Following his local customs, they leave their footwear neatly arranged at the edge of the step. She is amazed to find a fully functional kitchen and bathroom tucked away inside the building. The boy turns his attention to a set of wooden stairs leading up to another level. They discuss investigating the second floor, despite it being seemingly buried in the dungeon ceiling. He cautiously peeks around the corner as he begins to ascend the narrow staircase. They reach the top and find two more traditional Japanese rooms with sliding paper doors. Looking through a window, he realizes that solid dungeon rock is pressed directly against the glass. She asks about a specific set of sliding doors, which he identifies as a storage closet. Opening the closet reveals stacked futons and pillows, proving that they can live comfortably here. A single futon, set with two pillows, is laid out neatly on the tatami floor. While the girl blushes with a wide smile, the boy stands beside her, appearing completely flustered. Donning her tournament mask once again, the girl jokingly calls out to the boy like a customer. Soon after, two young female adventurers arrive at the storefront and are greeted warmly at the entrance. The shop reveals its official name as Yahagi on a large sign above the striped awning. Several days pass as the business begins to settle into the busy dungeon environment. One of the customers looks down in total frustration after failing to get a rare item. A display explains the mechanics of the Blastmenko, a cardboard toy that releases explosive magic. She continues to wail about her poor luck, while her companions watch with puzzled expressions. A crowd of eager adventurers gathers at the counter to clamor for the new stick chocolate. This popular item is revealed to be a cane-shaped treat that boosts magical power by 30%. The boy questions the effectiveness of the boost while talking to a girl wearing a shop uniform. She prepares to demonstrate the item's power by pulling out a traditional Ramune soda bottle. Pointing the chocolate wand forward, the worker shouts an incantation to trigger a massive fireball. A giant blast of energy erupts from the small treat, leaving the boy in absolute awe. The witnessing adventurer is stunned by the display and praises the worker for her hidden talent. She immediately offers the shop girl a spot in her party to serve as their primary mage. However, the worker bashfully declines the offer because she has already promised someone else her help. Striking a confident pose, she explains her personal goal of mastering multiple consecutive fireballs first. They agree to head to a nearby stone platform to begin a training match for magic control. A girl challenges Yusuke to a rematch while placing a toy figure on the table. A vertical black bar marks a transition between the afternoon and the evening. A wooden sign posted outside indicates that the specialty shop is currently closed. The scene transitions to the quiet exterior of the apartment building where Yusuke stays. The boy yells out in sheer terror as a mechanical figure stands beside him. His companion watches with a puzzled gaze while he nervously attempts to explain his state. Looking directly at her, he confidently states that he has unlocked a brand new magic. She remains completely silent and unimpressed by his sudden declaration of progress. After he asks why she is not surprised, she sighs at his constant weirdness. The boy happily reveals that his new ability is the legendary power of clairvoyance. She reacts with a massive shout of shock that echoes through the room. The girl grabs his clothing while screaming that he has found a legendary tier skill. She eventually gives up and accepts his strange talent for obtaining rare magic types. A magical potion bottle sparkles as she explains the importance of gradual training. Her expression turns grim as she warns that running out of mana can be fatal. A bold announcement page signals the official activation of his newfound spiritual ability. A translucent version of the boy suddenly pops out of his own physical form. His friend marvels at the sight of his spirit floating freely away from his body. A digital menu appears in the air, listing several available destinations for travel. He points at the screen to select the hot springs as his first target. The world blurs past as he teleports through the air toward his chosen destination. The massive structure of a bustling public bathhouse quickly appears before his eyes. Arriving in mere seconds, his translucent spirit stands before the entrance curtains. Two girls walk out of the facility while chatting cheerfully about their visit. He realizes they cannot see him and waves a hand playfully in front of them. Testing his intangibility, he reaches out and slides his hand right through a girl's head. A sudden tightness in his chest makes him realize that maintaining this form is taxing. Ignoring the slight discomfort for now, he looks around to see where else he can go. His eyes widen in total shock when he spots the entrance to the women's bath area. A heavy silence falls as a scandalous thought suddenly crosses his mind. He stares intensely at the dividing curtain while realizing the potential for mischief. Shaking his head frantically, he rejects the immoral idea and scolds his own wandering thoughts. The growing sensation of suffocation eventually forces him to cut his exploration short. A system window appears in the air, asking for confirmation to return to his physical body. A brilliant flash of white light erupts as the spiritual connection begins to sever. His astral form descends and merges back into his physical shell in a single instant. Grabbing his forehead in pain, he struggles with the dizziness caused by the sudden return. He contemplates the terrifying power of his new ability while slowly recovering his strength. Looking down at his chest, he notices in confusion that his shirt buttons have been undone. His companion nervously explains that she unbuttoned his shirt to help him breathe easier. Michelle asks where he went while he looks away guiltily. Her expression suddenly turns terrifyingly dark as she suspects him of peeking. A heavy silence falls between them as they exchange an intense, unwavering stare. She claps her hands joyfully after revealing her magical sensors detected no mischief. Sweating profusely, he realizes just how lucky he was to resist his impulses. She decides to head to the kitchen to fetch some water for him. Left alone, he recalls owning a special snack that boosts magical power. He pulls out a strange, candy cane-shaped item with a bright flash. Pondering if this will make his spirit viewing ability more stable, he prepares. He calls out the name of his clairvoyant skill while gripping the artifact. An overwhelming surge of energy suddenly erupts and begins to pull at him. His face contorts in pain as magical essence drains rapidly from his core. The room around him blurs into a chaotic streak of lines and light. Trapped in a spiritual void, he desperately realizes he must return at once. Visions of the recent past begin to play backward before his startled eyes. He watches a reversed image of Michelle unbuttoning his shirt for better breathing. The scene shifts to show her smiling gently while patting his resting head. He is shocked to see her leaning down to take a deep sniff. Clutching his chest, he suffers through the intense backlash of overusing his magic. He hears her voice echoing from the distance as his vision fades to black. Everything remains shrouded in darkness as he begins to drift back toward consciousness. A glass vial tip presses against his lips to deliver a medicinal liquid. Groaning softly, he finally opens his eyes to the blurred surroundings. Michelle stares down at him with tears welling in her eyes while clutching the empty bottle. He slowly sits up as she tearfully explains that he suffered from severe magical exhaustion. Sweat beads on his brow when he realizes he truly witnessed the events of the past. Michelle's face turns beet red as she listens to him recount the embarrassing things he saw. The night sky hangs quietly over the building as the tension between them lingers. Showing her the candy cane artifact, he explains how the clairvoyance magic functioned. Her expression shifts to one of pure terror as she screams about the danger he put himself in. Weeping openly, she berates him for attempting a suicidal magical feat. He reaches out to gently pat her head while promising to be more careful. Sitting together on the couch, he vows to never make her worry like that ever again. He mentally revisits the chaotic images that flashed before him during the vision, questioning if he could have viewed the future. He looks away with a serious expression. Staring out at the stars, he concludes that the artifact is far too dangerous and must be sealed. The next morning finds him and Michelle walking through the chilly morning air. Their path is blocked by a massive crowd swarming around a public notice board. Turning back to Michelle, he decides to go investigate the cause of the commotion. He begins pushing through the dense wall of people to see what is written on the board. Yusuke approaches a bulletin board crowded with official notices while standing amidst a curious group of townspeople. He reacts with a shocked expression and wide eyes upon reading the startling news on the board. Michelle bursts into the store with a frantic face while holding up a copy of the official flyer. She continues to shout excitedly about the contents of the announcement to a surprised Yusuke. A royal crest shines on the document, which details an upcoming grand tournament organized by the king. Envisioning a rain of gold coins, Michelle argues passionately that participation is mandatory for the prize. The girls exchange playful boasts about whose mobile force unit will ultimately reign supreme in the competition. Yusuke sighs while considering the massive scale of the event being held at the city arena. He notes that several of his talented acquaintances have already successfully advanced through the preliminary rounds. Setting up shop at a prime location near the arena entrance, he prepares for the day's business. He looks across to see Sanaga and Mirai working harmoniously together at their own weapons stall. The surrounding crowd begins to chatter loudly as rumors of the king's arrival start to spread. He contemplates using the clairvoyance artifact once more to get a glimpse of the opening festivities. A stern figure in a crown warns him not to use the dangerous magic for such trivial matters. The immense stone arena looms over the area as the roar of the crowd grows deafening. Spectators fill the benches and look toward the grand stage where the royal family is gathered. The king stands and cheerfully announces the official start of the much-anticipated Mobile Force tournament. The queen watches the proceedings with an incredibly sharp and perceptive gaze that feels slightly unsettling. Signal flares burst in the sky above the stadium to mark the conclusion of the morning's matches. Taking advantage of the midday break, Yusuke settles down and enjoys a large, hearty sandwich. Yusuke bites into a teriyaki chicken sandwich and praises the authentic flavor of the meal. A loud shout suddenly interrupts his lunch break as someone calls out his name. Michelle appears with a triumphant peace sign and announces she reached the top 16. Mel sadly mentions that several other companions were unfortunately eliminated from the competition. Despite the losses, the previous participants are surprised to find themselves mobbed for autographs. Yusuke offers his remaining chicken sandwiches to Marulu, who seems hesitant to accept them. Michelle suddenly points a finger and demands a specific item she spotted nearby. She gazes at a promotional box featuring a high-performance red custom mobile force. Her eyes sparkle with intense desire as she admires the red machine's unique dignity. Yusuke firmly explains that the special unit is strictly reserved for the tournament winner. A mysterious, dark voice chides Michelle for her lingering attachment to the model kit. Deciding to deliver the prize personally, Yusuke asks the group to wait for him. Michelle clenches her fist with determination and vows to win the entire tournament. The afternoon sun beats down on the towering walls of the Grand Stone Arena. Yusuke and Marulu approach a restricted area of the stadium to find the VIPs. He peeks cautiously through the bars of an imposing set of ornate iron gates. Two armored guards suddenly cross their halberds and demand to know his identity. Nervously smiling, he introduces himself as a merchant, here on behalf of Lord Essel. He holds up the special mobile force kit to prove his purpose for visiting. The guard sternly rebuffs him and states that commoners are not allowed in this area. Yusuke tries to reason with the guards while sweating profusely. The sentries violently cross their weapons and demand his immediate departure. Holding the prize kit, he lets out a heavy sigh of resignation. His attention shifts when he suddenly spots Lord Essel walking nearby. The nobleman jumps in surprise when he hears his name called out. Essel looks around frantically, before finally locking eyes with the merchant. He offers a polite greeting, while wondering why Yusuke is in this restricted area. Yusuke presents the high-performance model kit intended for the tournament champion. Although he usually loves these items, Essel appears strangely distracted and uneasy. A sudden rhythmic thumping sound catches Yusuke off guard. An entire squad of heavily armed soldiers marches toward them. The merchant and his companion freeze in shock at the massive show of force. Guards quickly flank the group and stand at attention with their shields. The grand iron gates slowly creak open to reveal two royal silhouettes. Peering through the gap in the guard line, Yusuke watches with bated breath. A blonde woman wearing an elegant crown strides past him with regal poise. The man beside her stops abruptly, while wrapped in a lavish fur-trimmed cloak. Essel quickly bows and introduces Yusuke as the specialized mobile force merchant. The king and queen of the realm finally reveal their imposing presence. Yusuke exhales a sigh of relief as he realizes the nobleman's intervention saved him. Yusuke breaks into a cold sweat while worrying about Minerva's behavior in front of the king. His companion remains outwardly calm, but continues her habit of cracking her knuckles nervously. As the royal party proceeds past the guards, the merchant stands quietly with his kit. The king pauses suddenly as something catches his keen eye in the crowd. He whirls around with an expression of pure delight that leaves Yusuke completely bewildered. His focus is entirely captured by the specialized model kit held in the merchant's hands. Sensing impending trouble, Yusuke's face pales as he anticipates the monarch's next move. The king leans forward aggressively and demands to know more about the item. Snatching the box away with excitement, he exclaims that it looks like a familiar unit. He inspects the packaging closely and realizes this version differs from his own collection. While Essel explains it is a limited edition, the queen watches the scene with a cold gaze. She suddenly lowers her feather fan and interrupts the men with a sharp command. Shifting her focus, the royal woman points directly at the masked warrior standing nearby. Her eyes narrow as she scrutinizes the woman hiding behind the metallic visor. She orders the companion to remove her mask immediately out of respect for the king. Yusuke panics internally because the mask's perception-altering magic was supposed to make it unnoticeable. The queen maintains an intimidating smile while waiting for the order to be followed. Minerva speaks up with a trembling voice and claims she has a hideous burn. The royal lady lets out a mocking laugh at the warrior's desperate excuse. She agrees with a cruel smirk that a dark, unsightly face is indeed a terrible sight. The queen continues her mockery, calling the masked woman by a familiar name and demanding a look. Yusuke panics as he realizes the perception-altering magic was completely ineffective against the royal's intuition. Accepting the inevitable, the companion reaches up to unfasten the heavy metallic headgear. She pulls the mask away to reveal a face that is perfectly smooth and clear of any burns. Standing exposed, she asks with a stern look how the queen was able to recognize her. The royal lady laughs and explains that any normal man would have been staring at her beauty. As she speaks, the warrior continues to grip her hands together in a familiar, tense manner. The queen points out that this specific knuckle-cracking habit has always been her greatest tell. Yusuke realizes that the constant nervous tick he observed was actually a sign of her identity. Maintaining a satisfied expression, the queen reminds the woman of the many years they spent together. She smiles broadly while reflecting on their long history of living under the same roof. The truth finally comes to light as the two are revealed to be estranged sisters. Breaking into a cold sweat, the merchant watches the familial confrontation with growing dread. The warrior gestures dismissively and asks what the royals intend to do with her. The king interjects with an angry shout, demanding a harsh punishment for the curse she inflicted. She shoots a sharp look at the monarch and argues that his own disrespect earned that fate. The king whimpers and hides behind his wife while complaining about his past suffering. At the royal command, the armored guards raise their spears and prepare to make an arrest. Looking toward the ground, the warrior questions if they truly think they can detain her. She lifts her head with a dark, mocking grin that suggests she is far from surrendering. The guards hesitate in fear, unsure if their numbers are enough to contain her. As the queen watches with amusement, while her pathetic husband continues to cower, she suddenly brandishes a strange scepter with a glowing, rotating sphere at its tip. The royal lady holds the artifact aloft as it begins to vibrate with intense energy. A gargantuan geometric seal erupts from the ground, bathing the entire courtyard in light. Shimmering pillars of mana descend upon the walls, solidifying a massive suppression field. Both the warrior and the merchant gasp as they realize their magic is gone. The queen explains that this unique item was specifically designed to neutralize her sister. Looking pale, the companion realizes the device creates perfectly synchronized inverse mana waves. She demands to know how a simple royal obtained such a complex magical tool. Teasing her sister, the queen simply winks and offers a mocking, playful gesture. The warrior grits her teeth and declares her eternal hatred for her sister's personality. With a cold smile, the royal replies that the feeling of animosity is mutual. The king suddenly finds his courage and shouts insults at the now powerless woman. Both royals look down with malicious glee while plotting a slow, painful execution. Following their orders, the armored soldiers advance with their weapons at the ready. The warrior woman winces and clenches her fists as she prepares for the worst. Yusuke unexpectedly steps in front of her with a dark and determined gaze. He whips a heavy object through the air with a sudden burst of speed. The merchant roars for the guards to stay back as he violently strikes them down. The guards are sent flying backward by an invisible force, their expressions filled with confusion. A magical item description reveals that Yusuke has used a special toy that creates explosive wind. Stumbling back, the soldiers wonder how a simple merchant managed to conjure such a gale. The merchant observes the queen's artifact and concludes that his unique items bypass her suppression field. His companion looks on in disbelief, questioning how he is still capable of using any powers. With a smug grin, he explains that he is merely using the tools of his trade. The guards quickly regain their composure and charge forward, dismissing the wind as a fluke. Feeling the pressure of the situation, the merchant prays as he prepares his next secret weapon. His hand dives into his inventory to retrieve a rare item he has saved for months. He brandishes a high-tier monster card while declaring his identity as a legendary shopkeeper. A blinding flash of white light consumes the courtyard as the summon is activated. A dark, monstrous shadow begins to take shape amidst the swirling magical energy. The silhouette continues to expand, casting a terrifying gloom over the entire royal palace. The king and queen gape in total shock as they witness an impossible entity appearing. An ancient, colossal dragon manifests behind Yusuke, roaring with a power that shakes the earth. Turning to his stunned partner, the merchant proudly displays the true might of his wares. Elsewhere, the deafening roar of a crowd echoes through a massive stone arena. A mechanical fist clenches tightly as a fighter prepares for the end of a match. A strange, armored golem stands triumphant while the announcer calls for a final decision. The victor is declared as a defeated opponent slumped on the floor laments her loss. A young woman weeps as her precious items and coins fly away into the distance. Mel complains that her magic control has been failing since the start of the morning. Nearby, the queen's magical staff continues to emit a piercing and disruptive light. Yusuke hears the roar of the arena and wonders if the afternoon matches have started. Meanwhile, the palace guards tremble in fear as a massive shadow falls across their path. Standing before the towering ancient dragon, Yusuke and Michelle maintain a calm composure. The royals demand to know how he bypassed the suppression field to summon a monster. He casually reveals a card while explaining that his items are considered common snacks. The suppression artifact pulses with energy in a futile attempt to nullify the summon. The ancient dragon Bismarck prepares to wreak havoc for its limited 3-minute duration. Michelle worries about their escape plan, while her magical abilities remain heavily restricted. A vision of smiling friends flashes across the scene during the chaotic confrontation. With a confident smile, Yusuke gives the command for his dragon to begin its rampage. The colossal beast lets out a deafening roar as it lunges at the terrified guards. The king and queen shriek in terror as they scramble to get away from the beast. A sudden interruption catches Yusuke off guard as two figures leap from the high balcony. A stern woman with glasses dives through the air while brandishing a long rope. She expertly lashes the rope around the dragon's snout to bind its powerful jaws. Landing gracefully, the woman pulls the restraints tight to halt the creature's advance. A formidable warrior with a spear joins the fray, smiling confidently at the restrained dragon. The warrior delivers a finishing strike to the dragon, which is still bound by the heavy ropes. Light erupts from the beast's body as it disintegrates into nothingness before the victorious general. He wears a smug expression while addressing the crowd after the short-lived confrontation. Yusuke and Michelle remain frozen in place, their faces shadowed by a sense of impending doom. General Bartos stands flanked by his two skilled companions, exuding an air of absolute authority. A bead of sweat rolls down Yusuke's cheek as he realizes the general's overwhelming combat ability. The queen shouts with joy, commending her brother for his impressive display of strength. Her tone shifts to ice as she points at the pair and orders their immediate execution. A close-up reveals her twisted, malicious delight at the prospect of Michelle's suffering. Bartos watches the exchange with a calm smirk, his hand resting near his sword hilt. He laughs heartily, amused that the rumored champion was actually the infamous witch in disguise. Reaching for his blade, he asks if they want to settle this in the arena now. Michelle grits her teeth, her expression turning bitter at the realization of her limited options. Hiding her face behind a fan, the queen mockingly observes that the witch's magic is gone. Her eyes gleam with cruelty as she demands that Michelle be brought to her knees. Bartos turns his gaze toward the suppression artifact, which continues to emit a blinding glow. He observes the device's effects, noting how thoroughly it has neutralized their magical capabilities. Yusuke is jolted by a sudden exclamation from the general, who calls out to him directly. Bartos turns back to Yusuke and Michelle, claiming her disguise was clever enough to fool him. He offers a dark proposition, hinting that Yusuke might escape death by betraying his companion. Yusuke and Michelle stare in stunned silence as the weight of the general's ultimatum settles. Meanwhile, the queen and Bartos share a knowing look of triumph over their captives. As Michelle lowers her head in despair, Yusuke begins a deep internal reflection on his choices. His consciousness drifts through an ethereal void as he looks back on his journey. He recalls the jars of candy and the humble beginnings of his dungeon shop. A vivid memory of Michelle's joyful expression strengthens his resolve to protect her. Returning to the present, he fixes his gaze forward with an intense and unwavering determination. The queen continues her mocking taunts, hiding her cruel intentions behind an elegant fan. Her face glows with malicious delight at the thought of watching Michelle suffer. Unexpectedly, Yusuke commands the queen to be silent, shocking everyone in the courtyard. He flashes a confident smirk, while asserting that he would never choose anyone over Michelle. The queen's face freezes in total disbelief at being insulted by a mere merchant. A tense silence falls as she struggles to comprehend the sheer audacity of his words. Her eyes widen in a state of catatonic shock as the rejection sinks in deeper. Suddenly, she erupts in a volcanic scream of rage at the merchant's blatant disrespect. Yusuke laughs openly at her tantrum, further taunting her by calling out her ugly personality. A brilliant light floods the scene as he invokes his specialized merchant shop ability. He holds several mysterious vials between his fingers with the grace of a professional. Michelle looks on in amazement as he prepares to make a move despite the suppression. With a swift and confident motion, he steps forward to take command of the battle. Yusuke readies several mysterious vials while Michelle cries out for him to stop. He maintains a confident smirk despite the peril of his current situation. Sweat beads on his forehead as he realizes the high stakes of his gamble. Bartos watches the merchant's display with an amused and curious expression. The general bursts into hearty laughter, seemingly impressed by the merchant's boldness. He reaches for the hilt of his weapon while preparing to interject. A sudden strike shatters the queen's magical staff, leaving everyone in total confusion. Yusuke and Michelle stare wide-eyed at the unexpected intervention by the general. The queen gasps in horror as she witnesses her source of power crumble. She demands an explanation from Bartos while clutching the remains of her staff. Bartos smiles serenely as he suggests that it is time to end this. He explains his exhaustion with working under the kingdom's incompetent leadership. The general declares a coup and commands the surrounding guards to stand down. He turns away from the young royal, who looks on in total shock. With a chilling grin, Bartos confirms his intent to seize the throne. The prince stammers in confusion as he repeats the general's treasonous words. His expression shifts to one of deep-seated fury and growing betrayal. He raises a fist and screams at Bartos for his blatant defiance. Bartos effortlessly flicks the prince's forehead, sending him sprawling across the ground. The defeated royal lies, face down in the dirt, as his crown rolls away. Bartos smiles confidently and rallies his followers to deal with the remaining royal guards. The guards promptly drop their weapons and surrender, realizing they stand no chance. The general instructs his men to escort his brother to his office to sign a resignation. The humiliated royal grits his teeth while seething in the dirt. The queen attempts a stealthy retreat, tiptoeing away from the center of the coup. Her escape is cut short as magical ropes suddenly bind her tightly. A glasses-wearing subordinate smirks while securing the captured royal. She cries out in protest as she is dragged away by the defected guards. Yusuke and Minerva watch the transition of power and contemplate making a quiet exit. A pristine merchandise box catches Yusuke's eye as it sits abandoned on the floor. He retrieves the item and sighs with relief that it remains undamaged. A voice interrupts him from behind, claiming responsibility for awarding the prize to the victor. Essel appears with a heavy and regretful expression on his face. Yusuke turns to him and asks if he was aware of the revolution beforehand. The portly merchant bows his head in apology for involving them in the dangerous scheme. Yusuke extends his arms and prepares to return the valuable box. Essel takes the package while offering a small, grateful nod to the young merchant. The two companions depart the courtyard as the dust from the rebellion begins to settle. Back at the arena, the announcer's voice booms across the Colosseum to name a champion. Two fighters exchange a respectful fist bump while the crowd cheers for the tournament winner. Essel holds the retrieved merchandise as the political unrest finally draws to a close. Yusuke and Michelle walk away from the arena while cheers echo behind them. Several days pass while the capital undergoes a significant and historic transition. General Bartos is publicly proclaimed as the new king to a celebrating nation. The new monarch addresses the cheering citizens from his high palace balcony. A tall tower standing outside the castle walls serves as a new prison. The deposed king and queen look dejected while facing their lifetime of confinement. Yusuke walks through the city and contemplates the impact of the recent revolution. The capital settles into a peaceful routine as the military maintains order. Doors open for business at the Ahagi shop within the local hot springs district. Yusuke looks toward the entrance as he hears the sound of a guest arriving. Essel steps inside the shop, flanked by two stoic and armored royal guards. The former merchant offers a warm smile while greeting the young shopkeeper. Yusuke is visibly startled by the sudden visit from his former business associate. He offers his congratulations to Essel for his promotion to the position of Prime Minister. The official sighs with a heavy heart while acknowledging his role in the scheme. Yusuke admits that while he is not truly angry, the deception felt unpleasant. Essel immediately bends his back in a profound and sincere bow of apology. He expresses deep remorse for involving the tournament in his dangerous political plot. A complex magic circle appears over the palace during his recount of the rebellion. Yusuke listens as the new prime minister continues to explain his past actions. Essel remains humble while acknowledging the weight of his previous deception. Yusuke closes his eyes and decides to let go of any lingering resentment. The young shopkeeper leans forward to share a confidential secret with his guest. He announces the arrival of a brand new model from the MOBA 4 line. A visual representation of a high-speed combat machine dominates the conversation. Essel beams with joy and offers to assist Yusuke in any way possible. Yusuke smiles knowingly while considering the future needs of his business. A quiet moment of transition passes as the day continues at the shop. The local Yahagi store remains busy as customers order refreshing bottled drinks. Michelle happily presents chilled bottles of Ramoon and fruit water to the guests. A local acquaintance is shocked to discover Michelle's true identity as a powerful witch. Yusuke and Michelle stand together while dressed in matching employee uniforms. The conversation shifts toward Yusuke's legendary feats during the recent royal coup. Michelle enthusiastically confirms the rumors with a bright and determined expression. She describes a dramatic scene of Yusuke summoning a massive dragon to protect her. The girl continues her exaggerated retelling, while Yusuke watches with visible embarrassment. He clears his throat in an attempt to steer the conversation back to reality. Yusuke pulls Michelle close and publicly confirms that they are now a couple. The entire group erupts into a chorus of cheers and heartfelt congratulations. A lively companion cheers for the new couple, expressing her genuine hope for their future happiness. Meanwhile, Mira looks down silently as a shadow of sadness falls over her face, realizing that her own feelings for Yusuke may never be returned as tears well in her eyes. Her friend offers a comforting pat on the back and suggests they drink their sorrows away tonight. A quiet admission is whispered into the air as the group begins to move on. Mira turns in surprise, but her friend quickly dismisses the comment with a flustered shout. The energetic girl vows to find a handsome boyfriend of her own, while Yusuke watches with confusion. The narrative shifts to reveal that Michelle's criminal record was cleared much faster than anyone anticipated. High within the royal capital, the final legal hurdles for the witch's pardon are officially settled. The king rests comfortably on his throne, while reflecting on the recent events and the shopkeeper's request. Essel notes that Yusuke seems to be a man completely devoid of any selfish or worldly greed. However, the king questions this assessment while recalling the intense look in the merchant's eyes. A memory of Yusuke's fierce determination to protect the woman he loves flashes across the screen. The monarch smirks, while concluding that Yusuke is actually the greediest man for desiring someone worth the whole world. A booming laugh echoes through the palace halls as the king declares his personal favor for the shopkeeper. A dark transitional period follows as time begins to slip forward into a new chapter of their lives. The seasons gradually change as the first flakes of winter snow begin to drift over the city walls. Yusuke shivers in the sudden cold, while realizing how much time has passed since his initial arrival. The conversation at the shop turns toward the upcoming festivities surrounding the legendary Cordelius Parade. Mira happily explains the saintly history of the Winter Festival to her curious and attentive companions. Yusuke contemplates the upcoming festival and how a lantern-style procession might benefit their shop. He introduces a new magic-activated neon jelly that changes color based on its flavor. The girls are instantly impressed by the glowing snack and predict it will be a hit. The moon shines brightly over the castle walls on the night of the long-awaited celebration. Yusuke and Michelle wait in the crowded streets as the sun begins to dip below the horizon. Several townspeople are already seen holding the glowing jelly sticks as the atmosphere grows lively. The last remnants of daylight disappear behind the heavy stone battlements of the royal city. Darkness completely envelops the capital, while the stars emerge in the clear winter night. Small magical lights begin to pop into existence along the top of the fortification walls. The city square is suddenly flooded with a massive and sparkling eruption of brilliant white light. The duo watches in stunned silence as a radiant river of energy flows past them. Yusuke prepares their own glowing snacks and asks Michelle which color she wants to carry. She picks the purple grape flavor while he teases her for choosing such an understated color. A sudden pop of magical energy activates the jelly stick with a vibrant flash of light. The soft purple glow illuminates Michelle's features as she looks down at the glowing treat. Yusuke finds her appearance even more enchanting and mysterious under the festive magical lighting. He whispers a quiet admission about his specific tastes, while his face turns a deep shade of red. Michelle asks what is wrong, while he sighs about reevaluating his own personal preferences. Firmly grabbing her hand, he declares, "It is time to head deeper into the parade." The two are warmly greeted by familiar customers who wish them a prosperous new year. A cheerful young woman shares the exciting news of her official induction into a party. An elderly bystander offers a knowing smile while commenting on the couple's apparent date. Celebratory cheers ring out as friends toast with their glowing magic snacks in the street. The atmosphere turns intimate as the surrounding buildings cast long shadows over the pavement. Michelle lowers her hat and softly mentions having some sweet apple wine at her place. She steals a shy glance toward her companion while waiting for his reaction. Yusuke reflects on the offer as the festive lights twinkle in the background. She looks up with a blush and an expression of deep, sincere vulnerability. Closing his eyes, he reaches a quiet internal resolution about their relationship. The two walk side by side, while Yusuke asks if it is truly alright to stay. Their hands find each other and clasp tightly amidst a flurry of magical sparks. The majestic architecture of the capital stands bathed in the glow of the Winter Festival. As they move through the city, Yusuke offers to tell her about his mysterious origins. High above the stone battlements, a single tower radiates a brilliant magical light. From behind a barred window, a woman stares out at the distant celebrations with resentment. Her captor gestures toward the table and invites her to share a drink. A bottle of red wine and a simple loaf of bread represent their holiday meal. She watches the man with cold indifference while he continues to chatter away. Hatred consumes her as she attributes her current misery to Michelle and her allies. A sudden realization about a specific man ignites a spark of intense fury in her eyes. Staring out of her high window, the captive woman vows to escape and exact her revenge. Her gaze sharpens with a chilling smile as she fixates on Yusuke as her primary target. Outside, the silent night air hangs heavy over the massive stone walls of the capital's fortress. Morning light soon reveals the cheerful striped awning of a small, quaint candy shop. A lively young employee slides the door open with an energetic New Year's greeting. Inside the shop, Michelle and Yusuke share a moment of radiant, blissful laughter together. A brief moment of quiet contemplation arises regarding the limited choices one makes in life. The duo relaxes at the counter while discussing their dreams and recent successes. Memories of the Grand Colosseum flicker briefly as Yusuke reflects on his brush with death. He recalls a time when his own strength was tested in a desperate struggle for survival. Returning to the present, a look of calm resolve settles over his face. Michelle beams with pride while handing him a small bottle of magical tonic. The shop continues to flourish as a bustling centerpiece of the local neighborhood. Standing side by side, the pair welcomes their loyal customers with warm and inviting smiles. As the day ends, the full moon rises high above the silent battlements of the city. Wiping sweat from his brow, Yusuke sighs with relief after a long day of hard work. He begins to close up for the night when a sudden guest interrupts him. The distinguished figure of Essel appears at the doorway to deliver an unexpected message. Leaning in close, the older man assumes a grave expression to discuss a matter of great importance. With a jolly wave, he shocks Yusuke by asking if he would consider becoming a feudal lord. Michelle and Yusuke stare back in utter disbelief as they realize their lives are about to get much more complicated.